First of all, welcome to Street Lit Audiobooks. Make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know where you from. Got another banger for you. Promise you'll learn something. The streets don't love nobody.
The streets don't love nobody. Ain't no room to cry about. No love, no love, no love.
Chapter 1. The Last Count. The night smelled like gun oil, weed smoke, and fresh hundreds. Kaiwan K1 Harris sat at the scarred wooden table in the back room of the old trap on MLK, Columbus, Georgia. The kind of spot that used to be a corner store before the city stopped pretending it cared. A single bare bulb swung above his head like a hanged man, throwing hard shadows across the neat stacks of money. 20 grand exactly. Rubber banded, crisp, still carrying the faint heat from the night's work. He counted slow, deliberate. The way a man counts the last tea breaths he might ever take. Each bill whispered promises he'd heard 1,000 times before and still believed with every beat of his heart. 17, 18, 19. His voice was low, almost lazy, but his eyes stayed razor sharp. 23 years old and already carrying the weight of a man who'd buried more friends than most grandfathers ever would. Across the room, Cap, real name Chris Russell, stood at the window like a gargoyle with a heartbeat. 6'3", 240 pounds of pure muscle and wired paranoia. Glock 19 locked and loaded in his right hand, finger resting just outside the trigger guard the way the Army taught him before they decided he was too dangerous to keep. Never sat during a count, never relaxed. He was the insurance policy. The man who saw death in every shadow and treated every shadow like it owed him money with interest. Still quiet out there? Kaiwan asked without looking up from the bills. Too quiet, Cap answered, voice flat as a tombstone. I don't like it. You never like it. That's why you still breathing, fool. They made the perfect team. Kaiwan had the vision, the easy smile that made fiends trust him with their last dollar, and made women forget every warning their mamas ever gave. Cap had the trigger finger, and the dead eyes that said he'd already accepted he wasn't making it to 30. Together they ran the South Side corridor from Columbus straight into Phoenix City like it was their personal ATM machine. Tonight had been fat. 2 clean drops, 1 smooth re-up, 0 drama, until the knock came. A soft rap rattled the steel door. Both men froze mid-motion. Kaiwan's hand drifted toward the 40 resting on the table beside the money. Cap raised the Glock, barrel steady as granite. Who the fuck? Cap growled under his breath. Another knock, 3 measured taps, the kind somebody who belonged would use. Kaiwan nodded once. Cap moved like liquid shadow, positioning himself so the door would swing away from his body. He flipped the deadbolt with his left hand, right still holding the pistol high. The door opened, and Keisha stepped through first, all hips and attitude wrapped in designer jeans that cost more than most people's rent. Red bottoms clicked against the cracked linoleum like she owned the whole building and the block it sat on. Behind her came Kiki, her best friend, ride or die, the one with the pretty face, and the reputation for even prettier violence when the mood struck. And Keisha's eyes landed on the money and lit up like Christmas lights in the projects. Damn, baby, y'all eating real good tonight. Kiki scanned the room, flashing a smile that stretched too wide. What y'all doing looking so crazy? Counting money like it's Christmas in the hood. Kaiwan leaned back in the chair, forcing an easy grin even though every street instinct he owned was screaming red alert. Shit. I was just wondering how the fuck you knew I was over here. I ain't text nobody. Ain't posted shit. Keisha shrugged, playful, stepping closer. I got my ways. You know I always find you when I need to. Kiki's smile never quite reached her eyes. She hesitated. Just a split second. The tiniest pause. But Kaiwan caught it. The kind of pause that costs lives on these streets. Kiki's hand came up smooth and practiced, a chrome 380 appearing like it had been waiting in her palm the whole time. The first shot cracked loud and vicious in the small room. Pops, and Cap's head jerked back as blood sprayed across the window behind him. His massive body staggered, Glock never even getting the chance to answer. Kaiwan was already in motion, chair flying backward, hand closing around his own 40, but the second bullet slammed into his chest high and hard before he could clear leather. The impact felt like a sledgehammer swung by God himself. Fire exploded through his ribs and lungs. He staggered, vision tunneling to a narrow black tunnel. Kiki turned, but Cap, still somehow on his feet despite the blood pouring down the side of his face, roared, and squeezed 3 rapid shots from his Glock. Kiki crumpled like cheap paper, red bottoms kicking once before she went completely still on the dirty floor. Keisha screamed something. Maybe a name, maybe a curse, maybe both. But the sound was swallowed by the ringing in Kaiwan's ears. He tried to raise his 40, arm heavy as wet cement, finger fighting the trigger. Another shot rang out, Cap firing at Keisha this time, but the big man was already folding, knees buckling as the blood loss finally won. Kaiwan's own shot went wild, punching a hole in the wall instead of flesh. Then the world narrowed to pain and betrayal. He saw Keisha's face twist in panic as she realized the setup had gone sideways. She lunged for the money on the table, but Kaiwan's body was already giving out. His legs betrayed him. The floor rushed up fast and unforgiving. He hit hard, money scattering around him like green confetti at a funeral. The last thing he registered before darkness swallowed him whole was Keisha's hands frantically stuffing banded stacks into a black duffel bag she'd pulled from somewhere. 20 grand. There, 20 grand. The entire night's harvest disappearing while his blood pooled warm beneath him. The only clear thought that floated through the spreading blackness was simple, almost childish in its honesty. Damn. I woke up this morning and didn't see this shit going down. He woke up to the smell of antiseptic, regret, and the faint metallic taste of his own dried blood. Bright fluorescent light stabbed straight into his skull. Machines beeped in steady mechanical rhythm. The whoosh of a ventilator forced air into lungs that felt shredded with razor wire and broken glass. A thick tube ran down his throat, invasive and merciless, keeping him from screaming the way every nerve in his body demanded. His mother, Marlene Harris, stood over the bed like an angel who'd been through too many wars and still showed up for the next one. She was smaller than he remembered, 5'2" in her church shoes, but the steel in her spine hadn't bent an inch since she raised 3 boys alone in the project's off Victory Drive. Tears carved clean tracks down her cheeks, but her jaw was locked tight the way it got when she was praying hard and cussing God out in the same breath. "Baby, my baby," she whispered, one trembling hand hovering inches above his chest like she was afraid touching him would break whatever fragile thread kept him alive. "The doctor said you coded twice on the table. Twice, Kaiwan. Jesus kept you here for a reason, son. He ain't done with you yet." He tried to speak. Nothing came but a wet, gurgling choke around the breathing tube. His right hand twitched, tried to reach for her, but the web of IV lines and monitors turned the motion into something small and pathetic. Marlene leaned closer, voice dropping to that low, dangerous register only a Southside mama who'd buried too many children could reach. "They said Cap didn't make it. That girl Keiki neither. Keisha, she's still breathing, but they got her in ICU too, hooked up worse than you. Police been asking questions I ain't got answers for, but I know my son. I know when you wake up you gon' want blood. Real blood." Kaiwan's eyes burned, not from tears, but from a fury so pure and hot it felt like high-octane gasoline flooding his veins. He remembered the hesitation in Keiki's eyes right before she pulled the trigger. He remembered the way Keisha had moved for the money while he lay dying on the floor. He remembered the trust he'd placed in people who were never built to hold it. Somebody had flipped the entire script. Somebody close. Somebody who knew exactly where they'd be counting that night and exactly how much would be on the table. The streets don't love nobody. They never had. But tonight they'd taken everything. His money, his partner, almost his life, and left him with one thing they could never steal back. A debt that could only be paid in lead, fire, and unrelenting pain. Marlene must have seen the promise ignite behind her son's eyes, because she straightened up slowly, wiped her face with the back of her hand, and nodded once like they'd just sealed a blood pact older than both of them. "When you strong enough to talk," she said, voice steady now, carrying the weight of every prayer and every curse she'd ever spoken, "we gon' find out who ordered this, who sent them girls in here. And then, baby, you do what you gotta do. Just make sure you come back to me when it's finished. Promise me that much." Kaiwan couldn't nod with the tube down his throat, but his eyes answered loud and clear, burning with a vow that needed no words. "Promise." Outside the hospital window, Columbus slept under a thin April moon, the Chattahoochee River sliding dark and indifferent past the scattered city lights. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Another night, another body, Another story the streets would swallow whole and never spit back out. But Kaiwan Harris was still breathing. And when a man the streets marked for dead wakes up with air in his lungs and fire in his heart, the entire balance sheet of the game shifts hard in one violent direction. Somebody out there was about to learn the hardest, bloodiest lesson in the streets. The streets don't love nobody. But Kaiwan was about to make them fear him like they'd never feared anything before. Chapter 2. Second Chance. Same demons. The hospital doors slid open with a mechanical hiss that sounded too much like a final breath. April's sun hit Kaiwan Harris like a spotlight he didn't ask for. He sat slumped in the wheelchair, chest wrapped tight in fresh bandages, stomach still burning from the bullet that had tried to turn his insides into confetti. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass, but the pain was nothing compared to the fire raging behind his eyes. His mother, Marlene, pushed the chair with both hands, her small frame doing the work of a woman who'd pushed harder things in life. She'd dressed him in the same oversized gray sweatsuit she'd brought the day he woke up. Clean, simple. Church lady approved. The automatic doors whooshed shut behind them like the hospital was glad to be rid of him. God done gave you a second chance, baby, Marlene said, voice soft but carrying that steel edge she only used when she meant business. 2 times you coded on that table. 2 times the doctors said you wasn't coming back. But here you are, breathing. Walking. Well, rolling for now. That ain't luck, Kaiwan. That's mercy. Now you need to turn your life over to Christ before he changes his mind. Kaiwan stared straight ahead at the cracked sidewalk leading to her old silver Toyota Camry. The words slid off him like rainwater on a windshield. His mind wasn't on altars or baptismal waters. It was on ledgers, on faces, on the chrome 380 that had lit up the trap like the 4th of July, on Keisha's hands stuffing his money into that black duffel while he bled out on the floor. Yeah, Ma, he muttered, voice still raspy from the tube they'd finally pulled 2 days ago. Second chance. I hear you. You hear me, but you ain't listening, she said, stopping the chair beside the car and coming around to face him. Her eyes, dark, tired, but still full of that unbreakable love, locked onto his. I buried your daddy. I buried your brother Marcus. I ain't burying you. Not over no streets that don't love nobody. You hear me? Turn it over. Let God fight this battle. Kaiwan forced a small nod, the kind that cost him nothing. Inside, the only prayer he was reciting was simple and old as the hood itself. Eye for an eye. Blood for blood. Everybody who touched me dies. Marlene helped him into the passenger seat with more gentleness than he deserved. The drive home to the modest brick house on Victory Drive felt longer than the 3 blocks it actually was. She kept talking. Scripture, second chances, testimonies from church sisters who'd lost sons and found Jesus instead. Kaiwan stared out the window, watching the familiar streets roll by. The corner store where he'd bought his first blunt at 13. The vacant lot where Cap used to post up. The apartment complex where Keisha used to crash when things got hot. By the time they pulled into the driveway, his jaw was clenched so tight it ached worse than the bullet wounds. Inside the house smelled like pine sol and fried chicken. Marlene's way of pretending normal still existed. She wheeled him straight to the living room, the same faded brown couch he'd slept on as a kid now serving as his temporary throne. Family pictures stared down from the walls. Him and his brothers smiling gap-toothed at 6. His father in uniform before the streets claimed him. Marlene looking young and hopeful at her high school graduation. I'm gonna fix you a plate, she said, already moving toward the kitchen. Then we pray. Real prayer, Kaiwan. Not that street nonsense. Soon as her back turned, he pulled out the prepaid flip phone the hospital social worker had given him. Burner, untraceable, perfect. His thumb moved on muscle memory. 1 number. The only number that had ever mattered when the world went black. It rang once. Brandy picked up on the first ring, voice smooth as Hennessy and sharp as a switchblade. K-Wan? Baby, what the fuck? I've been calling the hospital every day. They wouldn't tell me shit. He closed his eyes, letting the sound of her voice settle the storm in his chest. Brandy, Princess Savage Thompson. Dark-skinned goddess with eyes like polished obsidian and a body that made grown men forget their own names. But beauty was the least dangerous thing about her. She was a shooter. Real life, trained, no hesitation. They'd put pressure on these streets together since they were teenagers, earning her the name Princess Savage when she dropped 2 ops from a moving car on a rainy night in 2022. Then, she'd left the hood for the army, came back harder, meaner, and somehow even more loyal. Keisha and her bitch Kiki ran down on me and Cap, he said low, keeping his voice under the clatter of pans from the kitchen. Cap gone. They took the 20. Left me for dead. I'm out the hospital today. Ma talking that God shit. I need you. Silence for half a second. Brandy processing, calculating, deciding. Then, I'm on the way. Don't move. Don't talk to nobody else. I'll be there in 3 hours. She hung up. True to her word, 3 hours and 17 minutes later, a gleaming black Range Rover Sport pulled up smooth outside the house, tinted windows hiding the interior like a secret. Brandy stepped out in fitted black joggers, a cropped white tee that showed the edges of her tattoos, and fresh Timbs. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, gold hoops catching the afternoon light. She looked like money, like violence, like home. Marlene met her at the door with a tight hug and a warning look. Brandy, baby, he needs rest, not more trouble. I got him, Ms. Marlene, Brandy said, voice respectful but steel underneath. Promise. She wheeled Kaiwan out herself, loading him into the passenger seat of the Range like he was precious cargo. The new car smell mixed with her signature scent, vanilla, and something darker, like gunpowder and roses. As soon as the doors closed and the engine purred to life, she reached over, cupped his face with both hands, and kissed him slow and deep. The kind of kiss that said, I thought I lost you without using words. You look like hell, baby, she said when they broke apart, thumb brushing his cheek. But you still the finest man breathing. We gon' fix this. She pulled off smooth, heading north toward Atlanta, the highway opening up like a promise. Columbus shrank in the rear view. Projects, corners, ghosts, all of it fading into the distance. Kaiwan leaned his head back against the seat, pain meds making the edges soft, but not dulling the rage. They set me up clean, knew exactly where we was counting. Cap tried to hold it down. Took one to the head trying to protect me. Died like a soldier. Brandy's grip tightened on the wheel, knuckles paling. Keisha always was a snake. That bitch Kiki, too. We'll find them. Make it slow. He nodded, watching the pine trees blur past. In the back of his mind, another thought kept circling like a vulture. The new connect he'd just locked in with 2 weeks before the hit. Sinoj Cartel. Atlanta-based. The only true black mafia family still moving weight like the old days. They didn't play. Their reputation was ironclad. Cross them, and they'd put your face in the blender, literally. Kaiwan had met their lieutenant in a back room off Cascade. Shook hands on a new pipeline that could have taken him from corner boy to major player. Nice numbers. Clean product. But nice numbers always came with strings. Brandy, you think this hit got anything to do with the Senoy plug? He asked quiet, testing the waters. She glanced over, eyes narrowing. The cartel? Possible. New money always brings new enemies. But Keisha ain't connected like that. Unless somebody paid her to test you. Or unless the cartel testing loyalty early. She shrugged one shoulder. Dangerous grace in the motion. Either way, we recover first. You heal up. Then we starch the streets. Everybody who smelled that money. Everybody who looked the other way. Sinoj included if they had a hand in it. The Range ate up the miles toward Atlanta. Brandy kept one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally resting on his thigh. Possessive, protective. She told him about the strip clubs she was working. Magic City on slow nights. Then her own studio sessions chasing that rap dream. Princess Savage wasn't just a street name anymore. She was dropping tracks that had the city talking. Hard lyrics about loyalty, betrayal, and bodies dropping. The kind of music that made listeners wonder how much was real. By the time they hit the Atlanta city limits, the sun was dipping low, painting the skyline in blood oranges and purples. Brandy pulled into a quiet subdivision off Cascade Road. Nice houses, manicured lawns, the kind of place where trap money went to hide in plain sight. Her spot was a modern 2-story with a 3-car garage. She helped him inside, got him settled on a king-sized bed with more pillows than a hotel, then disappeared into the kitchen. When she came back, she had 2 plates, grilled salmon, rice, greens, and a bottle of water with pain pills. Eat slow. Doctor said no heavy shit yet. You full recover before we move. I ain't nursing no vegetable. Taiwan managed a weak laugh that hurt his ribs. You always been bossy. Somebody gotta be. You the heart. I'm the hammer. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching him eat. We've been through worse. K1. Remember when we was 17 and that nigga Rico tried to short us on the pack? We rode on his whole block same night. This ain't different, just bigger stakes. He set the plate aside, reaching for her hand. I woke up thinking about that last thought. Didn't see this coming. Streets don't love nobody, Brandy. But you different. She leaned in, forehead against his. I love you enough for both of us. And I shoot straight enough for both of us, too. Rest. Tomorrow we start making calls. Quiet ones. Find out who fed Keisha that info. Who wanted you gone. Then we paint the city red. Slow, smart, savage style. As night fell over Atlanta, Kaiwan lay back against the pillows, body broken, but mind sharpening like a fresh blade. His mother's words about God and second chances echoed somewhere distant, drowned out by the louder drumbeat in his chest. Kill everybody who made me bleed. The Senoj cartel flickered in his thoughts again, that smooth lieutenant with the dead smile, promising the world while hiding the fine print. New connect. New risks. Maybe the hit was a message. Maybe it was coincidence. Either way, the streets had drawn first blood. Kaiwan Harris was off the board for now. But when he got back on it, the game was going to change forever. Princess Savage was already loading the clips, and the streets were about to learn what real fear tasted like. Chapter 3. Loose Ends in Red. Keisha Keisha Mills lay back on the king-sized bed in the dimly lit bedroom of the trap house off Fulton Industrial Boulevard in Atlanta. Legs spread wide like she owned the whole damn city. The sheets were cheap black satin, already damp with sweat and whatever else had gone down that afternoon. Low R&B played from a Bluetooth speaker on the nightstand. Something slow and nasty that matched the rhythm of the head she was getting. Lil B was between her thighs performing pure magic with his tongue. Young, eager, and hungry, like only a 19-year-old killer could be. That's what she loved most about these young niggas. They'd slang that iron for a bitch without asking twice, then drop to their knees and eat it like it was their last meal. Damn, B. Right there, baby, she moaned, fingers gripping his fresh braids, hips rolling slow against his face. Lil B, real name Brandon Lil Blood Xavier, was the young leader of BMX, Blood Money X Out, a ruthless set of young bloods tearing through the west side of Atlanta and parts of College Park. He wasn't just a shooter. He was a leader with a reputation that made older heads nervous. Short fuse, long body count, and a tongue that could make a grown woman forget her own name. Keisha had been grooming him for weeks, feeding him pussy, promises, and pieces of the street puzzle until his nose was wide open. Now, he was hers to point like a loaded gun. Lil B came up for air, lips shiny, eyes glazed with that young lust mixed with devotion. You taste like money, Keisha. Tell me what you need. I'll body anybody for you. Keisha smiled down at him, lazy and satisfied, but her mind was already 3 steps ahead. She loved this part. The power. The way a little head and a few whispered words could turn a killer into a lapdog. She pulled him up by the chain around his neck until he was hovering over her, their bodies pressed close. You already did good with that lick on MLK. That 20 grand was sweet, but we got a problem now. Lil B's face hardened, the killer surfacing quick. What kind of problem? She sighed dramatically, tracing a finger down his chest where fresh ink spelled out BMX in Gothic letters. Kaiwan didn't die. That nigga woke up in the hospital breathing. Streets blaming everything on Keiki since she caught them slugs. But I know the truth. And Kaiwan, he knows it too. That man don't forget nothing. He gon' want every drop of blood back. With interest, the room felt smaller suddenly. Lil B sat up on his knees, reaching for the Glock 17 on the nightstand like it was a security blanket. So we finished the job. Simple. I ride on that hospital right now if you want. Keisha laughed soft, pulling him back down. Not yet, baby. Too hot. Cops still sniffing around Columbus, and his mama got that church armor around him. We move smart. Besides, she let the pause hang, letting him feel the weight of what came next. I got word from Makia. She got the plug on how to tie up these loose ends clean. Makia was Keisha's older cousin. Street smart, connected, and cold as the Chattahoochee in winter. She moved weight for the Senoj cartel on the low. The same black mafia family that had been whispering sweet nothings to Kaiwan right before the hit. Makia had been the one who fed Keisha the exact location and time of that count on MLK and Broad. Kaiwan gon' be there counting money tonight. 20 easy. That one text had set everything in motion. Keisha had loved the lick. The money, the power move, watching Cap drop and Kaiwan bleed out on that dirty floor. But now the high was fading into pure paranoia. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Makia's name flashed on the screen. Keisha answered on speaker, voice sweet as syrup, while Lil B's hands roamed her body. "Talk to me, cuz." Makia's voice came through low and urgent, the kind of tone that meant business was about to get bloody. "Dead gang just hit my line. They green-lighted you, Keisha. Full contract." Kaiwan woke up talking, and the street's already shifting. They want loose ends tied before he starts painting pictures. You know how this go. Either you disappear, or somebody disappears you. But I got a play that keeps your hands clean, and my name out the dirt. Keisha sat up straighter, pushing Lil B's hands away gently. The post-nut glow vanished. "What kind of play?" Kia chuckled dark on the other end. "Your little boyfriend Lil B. His nose wide open for you now, right? Use that. Send him at Kaiwan quiet. Make it look like BMX beef, not personal. Then when it's done, we flip the script. Blame it on the youngins getting reckless. Senor Cartel don't want heat from no half-dead trap boy coming back for revenge. They got bigger moves cooking with that new pipeline. Kaiwan was just a test run. You did good. But now clean it up." Lil B's eyes narrowed, listening close. He wasn't stupid, just young and dickmatized. Keisha met his gaze, smiling that dangerous smile that had gotten her this far. "You heard that, baby? They want me gone. But we smarter than that. You handle Kaiwan, make it clean, make it look like gang shit, and I'll make sure you eat good. Real good. BMX takes the credit, you take the throne, and I take care of you every night like this." Lil B licked his lips, already nodding before she finished. "Say less. Where he at now?" Keisha glanced at Makia through the phone. "Atlanta. His bitch Brandy scooped him up from Columbus. They laying low at her spot off Cascade. Makia gon' send the address quiet. You roll with two of your most solid. Nighttime, no witnesses. Pop him while he's still weak from the hospital. Then we celebrate." Makia's voice cut back in. "Keep it clean, Keisha. No loose talk. Sinoj watching everything. That Boy Street, Kaiwan's new connect. They don't play. They'll put your face in the blender if this blows back. Dead gang already got the word out. Green light means green light. Handle it tonight or tomorrow latest. I'll text the address when it's safe." The call ended with a click that felt final. Keisha tossed the phone aside and pulled Lil B back on top of her, wrapping her legs around his waist. "You see how this work, baby? They think they using me, but I'm using everybody. You do this for me. I'll put you on with Senor direct. No more corner shit. Real money. And this pussy every night you want it." Lil B's eyes lit up with that mix of lust and ambition that made young killers so easy to steer. "I got you, Keisha. Kaiwan breathing his last days. BMX gon' handle it. Then it's me and you running shit." He dove back in with renewed hunger, but Keisha's mind was already elsewhere, calculating escape routes, counting the 20 grand she'd stashed in a safe deposit box, wondering how long before Kaiwan's name started ringing bells again. She loved the lick she'd put down, loved watching that money disappear into her bag while he bled out. But surviving it, that was the real game. Streets don't love nobody, and right now they were whispering her name like a death sentence. Across town in a quiet Senor Cartel safe house, Makia hung up the burner and lit a cigarette, staring at the address she was about to send. She felt no guilt. Business was business. Kaiwan had been a promising young plug, but the cartel tested loyalty early and often. The hit on MLK had been a probe. See if he'd fold, see who he trusted, see how fast word traveled. He'd survived. That made him a liability now. Dead gang, the enforcement arm that handled the cartel's wet work, had made the call. Keisha was the perfect pawn. Greedy, flashy, and already dirty. Lil B was the perfect tool. Young, loyal to pussy, and expendable if it went wrong. Makia exhaled smoke toward the ceiling, thinking about the bigger picture. Senoj was expanding. New routes from the border, new faces in the city, new rules that said anybody who breathed wrong got erased. Kaiwan's survival was a wrinkle, but wrinkles got ironed out with bullets. She typed the address into the text, hit send, and deleted the thread. Hands clean. Conscience? buried somewhere under layers of designer clothes and cartel cash. Back in the bedroom, Lil B finished what he started, rolling off Keisha with a satisfied grunt. She watched him dress. Young body covered in gang tats, Glock tucked into his waistband like an accessory. Go handle that, baby. Come back to me when it's done. We'll pop bottles and count real money. Lil B kissed her hard, then headed for the door, already dialing his two most solid soldiers. Tonight, Cascade Spot, light work. Keisha waited until the door closed before she let the smile drop. Nervous energy crawled under her skin like ants. Kaiwan alive changed everything. He wasn't the type to forgive or forget. He'd come for blood. Hers, Lil B's, maybe even Makia's if he connected the dots to Sinoj. But she had the money, the young killer on a leash, and a cousin deep in the cartel. She could ride this wave, or so she told herself. Outside, Atlanta traffic hummed like a living thing. Sirens in the distance, bass from passing cars, the constant pulse of a city that never slept and never forgave. Keisha got up, walked to the window naked, and stared out at the lights. The 20 grand was safe. Her future? Hanging by a thread thinner than the one Kaiwan had survived. She picked up her phone again, texting Makia one last time. Make sure Lil B don't fuck this up. I want Kaiwan gone by sunrise. The reply came quick. It's already moving. Stay, ghost. Sinoj don't miss twice. Keisha tossed the phone on the bed and lit her own cigarette, inhaling deep. She'd loved the lick. Now she had to love the cleanup even more. Because in these streets, loose ends didn't just unravel. They came back shooting. And Kaiwan Harris was waking up with a whole lot of bullets left to spend. Chapter 4. Shadows and Spray. Princess Savage noticed it first. Brandy Thompson sat in the dimly lit living room of her Cascade Road crib, one eye on the 65-inch TV where a late-night replay of her latest studio session played on mute, the other eye glued to the ring of security cameras mounted around the property. Military training didn't die easy. 4 years in the Army had wired her nervous system for threat detection, the way most women wired theirs for designer sales. Street sense did the rest. She'd survived more ambushes than most OGs twice her age. The black Infiniti G37 rolled by slow the first time. Tinted windows, no tags visible under the streetlight, moving like it was window shopping for death. Brandy sat up straighter on the leather sectional, remote, forgotten in her hand. 10 minutes later it passed again, even slower. Driver's side window cracked just enough for a silhouette to scope the house. Her pulse didn't spike. It steadied. That was the killer in her, calm before the storm. She killed the TV, slipped on black nitrile gloves out of habit, and moved silent through the house like smoke. The backyard floodlights were off on a timer. The side gate was locked. Everything looked normal to a civilian. To Princess Savage, it screamed setup. Kaiwan was in the master bedroom, propped up against a mountain of pillows in the king bed, still weak, but stubborn as hell. The hospital had sent him home with a wheelchair and strict orders. No sudden moves, no stress, plenty of rest. He was ignoring all three, controller in hand, thumbs flying across the PlayStation 5 as he ran through a ranked match in Call of Duty. Gunfire and explosions poured from the TV speakers. Ironic soundtrack for what was coming. Brandy stepped into the doorway, voice low and even. Get on point, baby. Kaiwan paused the game mid-kill, eyes snapping to hers. He read her face the way only a man who'd bled with her could. What we got? Black Infiniti. Rode by twice. Slow. Military crawl. They casing. She crossed the room in 3 strides, opened the closet, and pulled out the blackout. AR-15 she kept oiled and ready. Suppressor already threaded, 30-round mag locked and loaded. She racked the charging handle with a soft metallic clack that sounded like home. They coming? Tonight. Kaiwan didn't argue. Pain or no pain, the streets had taught him better. He set the controller down, reached under the pillow, and came out with the Glock 19 she'd left there earlier. His chest still burned where the bullet had torn through, stomach tight from the second slug. But adrenaline was already doing what the pain meds couldn't, sharpening everything. Brandy helped him into the wheelchair fast, but careful, positioning it in the corner of the bedroom with a clear line of sight to the hallway and the back door. She killed the bedroom lights, plunging the room into shadow except for the faint blue glow from the paused game on the TV. Then she melted into the darkness beside the closet. AR held ready, breathing slow and controlled like she was back on night patrol in some desert that didn't have a name. Outside, 2 blocks down the quiet suburban street, Lil B killed the Infinity's engine and nodded at his partner. Lil Boo, real name Darius, 18, BMX foot soldier with more heart than sense, sat in the passenger seat racking a Draco shorty, the drum mag making a heavy clack-clack. Both youngins pulled black hoodies tight over their heads, faces half hidden, eyes wild with that mix of fear and excitement that came with your first real mission for pussy and power. Easy lick, Lil B whispered, repeating Keisha's words like a mantra. He's still weak from the hospital. Sitting duck. We pop in, spray the room, grab whatever money or work he got, and bounce. Keisha waiting on that call. Lil Boo grinned, gold fronts flashing. BMX takeover. Let's ride. They slipped out the car quiet, leaving it parked in the shadows between 2 houses. The neighborhood was asleep. Nice lawns, security signs in yards, the kind of place where trap money hid behind white picket fences. Lil B and Lil Boo crept through the backyards like ghosts, hopping fences, staying low. Dogs barked once in the distance but went quiet. No lights flicked on. They reached the rear of Brandy's house. Lil B tested the back gate. Unlocked. Sloppy. They moved into the yard. Grass damp under their Timbs. Through the sliding glass door, they could see the blue glow of the TV in the bedroom down the short hallway. A silhouette in a wheelchair. Kaiwan, head down, thumbs still moving like he was lost in the game. Lil B smirked. Sitting duck, just like she said. Lil Boo kicked the sliding glass door hard, glass exploding inward in a shower of shards. They rushed in screaming, Draco and a .40 barking wild. BMX! Where you at, nigga? Lil Boo went first, charging straight down the hallway toward the bedroom. Draco spitting fire. Bert! 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 Bullets chewing drywall and shattering picture frames. He never made it to the doorway. Princess Savage stepped out of the shadows like death, wearing Timbs and a ponytail. The blackout AR-15 came alive in her hands. Controlled, surgical bursts. The suppressor turned the roar into deadly coughs. 3 rounds slammed into Lil Boo's chest, lifting him off his feet and slamming him back against the wall. He slid down, leaving a red smear, eyes wide in shock, Draco clattering useless to the floor. Lil B froze mid-stride in the living room, realizing too late that the duck wasn't sitting. It was bait. He spun, trying to retreat toward the shattered door, firing blindly over his shoulder. Fuck! It's a trap, the AR spoke again. Brandy walked forward calm, stitching him from hip to ankle. Bullets knocked Lil B's legs clean out from under him. He screamed, hitting the hardwood hard, blood already pooling beneath him. His gun skittered across the floor. Kaiwan rolled the wheelchair forward out of the bedroom, Glock steady in his right hand despite the pain shooting through his torso. He looked down at the young blood writhing on the floor, face twisted in agony. Who sent you? Kaiwan asked, voice cold and flat. The same voice he used when counting money. Measured, final. Lil B spat blood, eyes blazing with that young defiance that got so many killed. Fuck you, nigga. BMX. Kaiwan didn't wait for the rest. He leaned forward in the wheelchair, pressed the Glock to Lil B's forehead, and pushed his wig back with one clean shot. The suppressor made it sound like a heavy book dropping. Lil B's body jerked once and went still. Silence crashed down hard. Brandy swept the rest of the house fast, clearing rooms, checking corners. AR still up. She came back, nodding, clear. 2 bodies, no more. Kaiwan stared at the dead youngins on his girl's floor, blood soaking into the expensive rug. Pain meds and adrenaline fought for control in his system. BMX, young bloods. Keisha's new pet project, I bet. She sent them to finish what she started. Brandy ejected the mag from the AR, checked it, slapped in a fresh one. They came sloppy. Thought you was still half dead. Underestimated the savage. She knelt beside Lil B, patted him down quick. Phone, a roll of cash, a small bag of pills. She tossed the phone to Kaiwan. Burner. Last call's probably to her. Kaiwan took the phone, already thinking 3 moves ahead despite the fire in his chest. They knew the address. That means somebody close fed it. Keisha. Or whoever pulling her strings. His mind flashed back to the Senoj cartel connect. The smooth lieutenant. The big promises. The timing that felt too perfect. This ain't just Keisha being greedy. Somebody greenlit me. And now they sending kids to clean up. Brandy stood, wiping her hands on her joggers. We can't stay here? Too hot now. I'll call my people. Get a cleanup crew. Then we move you to the safe spot off Old National. You still healing? But these streets don't wait for nobody. Kaiwan nodded, wheeling back slightly as the reality settled. 2 more bodies added to the count. The war had officially followed him from Columbus to Atlanta. His mother's voice echoed somewhere distant. Turn it over to Christ. But it was drowned out by the louder truth ringing in his ears with every heartbeat. The streets don't love nobody. But tonight, they'd learned that Princess Savage loved him enough to paint the walls red for him. And Kaiwan Harris was done playing defense. He looked at Brandy, eyes hard with that promise he'd made in the hospital. Find Keisha. Find who sent these lil niggas. Then we start starching everything connected. Sinoj included if they smell dirty. Brandy smiled. That cold, beautiful smile that had earned her the name. Already on it, baby. You rest that body. I'll handle the hammer tonight. She helped him back to the bed, then started making calls. Quiet, efficient, the way a real rider moved when the body count climbed. Outside, Atlanta kept breathing. Sirens wailing far off, bass from a distant block party. The city indifferent to another 2 souls it had just swallowed. But inside that Cascade house, the balance had shifted again. Loose ends had come looking for Kaiwan. Instead, they'd found Princess Savage waiting in the dark, and the streets were about to get a whole new lesson in fear. Chapter 5. Heavy Lies and Heavy Pipe. The news hit the streets of Columbus like a Molotov cocktail tossed into a dry brush fire. Lil B and Lil Boo smoked, executed clean in an Atlanta backyard by a wheelchair-bound trap boy and his savage bitch. Word traveled faster than the Chattahoochee in flood season. By sunrise, every corner, every trap, every barbershop from Victory Drive to the Phoenix City Bridge was buzzing. BMX, Blood Money X out, was out for blood. Real blood. Not the little revenge pops young niggas usually settled for. This was war. Heavy blood. Real name Marcus Heavy Xavier. Lil B's older cousin, and now the undisputed next in charge. Stood 6'4" and weighed a solid 280 pounds of muscle that still moved like he was on a football field. He had been a star linebacker at Hardaway High, the kind of big nigga who could chase down receivers and pancake offensive linemen in the same series. Georgia Bulldogs had offered him a full ride, but Heavy couldn't get right. Fights in the dorms, fights on the practice field, fights in the parking lot after games. One too many assaults, and the Bulldogs kicked him off the team before his sophomore season even ended. He came back to the streets harder, meaner, and with a reputation that made older heads step careful. Now Heavy paced the back room of a trap on 13th Street, gold chain swinging against his massive chest, 2 phones in his hands lighting up nonstop. His voice boomed like thunder rolling off the river. They killed my lil cousin in Atlanta in a fucking wheelchair setup? Nah, we paint the whole city red. Find Kaiwan. Find that bitch Brandy. Princess Savage, they call her. I want both they heads on a platter by the end of the week. His soldiers nodded, eyes wide. BMX was young, but Heavy brought the weight, literally and figuratively. The streets of Columbus were already shifting. Old alliances cracking, new ones forming. Everybody wanted a piece of the revenge pie because revenge always paid in respect and money. Keisha Mills knew it better than most. She sat in her sleek downtown condo at the Rapids, glass walls overlooking the Chattahoochee, marble countertops, furniture that screamed, "I made it," without saying a word. The 20 grand from the MLK lick was long gone into safer places, but the heat was rising faster than she liked. Lil B had been her insurance policy. Now he was a headline on the streets and a cautionary tale in group chats. She needed new muscle, bigger muscle, somebody who could actually finish what the youngin started. She made the call. Heavy picked up on the second ring, voice guarded. Who this? Keisha. Keisha. We need to talk. In person. My condo downtown. The Rapids. Come alone. I got something for you that'll make BMX eat good. Heavy didn't waste time. 40 minutes later, his blacked-out Tahoe pulled into the underground garage. He stepped out looking like a walking tank. Black hoodie stretched tight across his shoulders, jeans sagging just right, Tim's heavy on the concrete. Keisha met him at the private elevator, dressed simple but deadly. Tight black leggings, cropped hoodie unzipped just enough to show the lace underneath, hair pulled back, makeup flawless even at this hour. She didn't waste words in the elevator. As soon as the doors closed, she pressed against him, letting him feel the heat. I've been watching you, Heavy. The way you move since Lil B been gone. You the one holding BMX together? Real leader shit? Heavy's eyes narrowed, but he didn't pull away. You the one who sent my cousin on that suicide mission? Keisha smiled up at him, innocent as sin. Lil B wanted to prove himself. I gave him the lick. Shit went left. Now Kaiwan breathing, and the streets blaming everybody but the right people. I'm trying to fix it. For you. For BMX. For us. The elevator dinged on her floor. She led him inside the condo, the city lights sparkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows like diamonds on black velvet. No small talk. Keisha took his hand and walked him straight to the bedroom. King bed already turned down. Low red lighting, a bottle of Henny, and 2 glasses waiting. Heavy wasn't stupid, but he was a man. And Keisha knew exactly how to feed a man lies he wanted to swallow whole. I seen how you handle business, she said, pushing him down to sit on the edge of the bed. You ain't like these lil hothead youngins. You got weight. Real weight. Her hands moved to his belt, slow and deliberate. Kaiwan think he can come back and take what's ours. But with you leading BMX, we can flip the whole script. Take his connect. Take his territory. Take everything. Heavy's breathing got heavier as she talked, feeding him the exact mix of pussy promise and street ambition he craved. He ate it up, every word, because deep down, every big man who got kicked out of college still wanted to be the king somewhere. Keisha wasn't wasting time. She dropped to her knees, unzipped him, and the surprise hit her like a freight train. Heavy wasn't even fully hard yet, and his staff already hung damn near to his knees. Thick, heavy, veined like tree roots. When he looked down at her and smiled, that slow, knowing smile, the confidence in his eyes almost made Keisha abandon the whole mission right there. She'd seen big before, but this was something else. Something biblical. Damn, she whispered before she could stop herself. Heavy chuckled low, deep voice vibrating through his chest. You thought you was just gonna talk me into this, huh? Nah, Keisha. You called the right nigga for the job. He stood up, towering over her, and took control. No mercy. Heavy didn't make love. He waged war on the bed. He picked Keisha up like she weighed nothing, tossed her onto the mattress, and came down on her heavy. It turned into a fighting match almost immediately. Keisha tried to take every inch, body arching, nails digging into his massive back, but he was trying to give her every single one. Slow, deep, relentless strokes that had her gasping and cursing in the same breath. Fuck. Heavy. Wait. Shit. He didn't wait. He leaned in close, breath hot against her ear. You wanted a real nigga, right? This what leadership feel like. The orgasm that finally crashed over her was overwhelming. Body shaking, vision blurring, a scream tearing from her throat that echoed off the glass windows. She came so hard her legs locked around his waist like she was drowning, and he was the only lifeline. Heavy didn't stop until he was done, grunting low as he finished deep inside her, then collapsed beside her like a fallen tree. For a minute, the only sound was their ragged breathing and the distant hum of the city below. Keisha lay there, body still trembling, mind trying to regroup. The mission wasn't abandoned. If anything, it was stronger now. She turned to him, tracing a finger down his sweat-slick chest. I need you to finish what Lil B couldn't, she said soft, voice still husky. Kill Kaiwan. Him and that bitch Brandy. Make it look like BMX revenge, but make it clean. Do that for me. For us. And I'll put you on with the real money. Senoj cartel level. No more corner shit. Heavy stared at the ceiling, chest rising and falling. The lies tasted sweet because they came wrapped in good pussy and bigger dreams. He nodded slow. Consider it done. Kaiwan got my cousin killed. He gon' pay in blood. Keisha smiled, satisfied for the moment. Then her phone rang on the nightstand. The plug. She answered quick, sitting up. Talk. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, with that Senoj cartel edge that said business first, body second. We got the 5 bricks of ice ready for you. Pure, but we need the money in 24 hours. No extensions. You know how we move. Cash or wire. Your choice. Don't play with us, Keisha. The last nigga who shorted got his face turned into smoothie. Clock's ticking. Keisha swallowed hard, the post-sex glow fading fast. 5 bricks of ice. Crystal meth. High grade. The kind that moved fast on the streets right now. The Senor cartel was expanding their portfolio, and she was supposed to be their new distributor on the Columbus side. The 20 grand from the lick had been seed money, but it wasn't enough. She needed to flip it quick, or come up with the rest. "I got you," she said, keeping her voice steady. 24 hours. I'll have it." The line went dead. Heavy looked over at her, one thick eyebrow raised. "Problems? Nothing I can't handle." Keisha lied smooth, already calculating. She'd use BMX muscle to pressure some old debts, flip the rest through the strip clubs, maybe hit a quick lick on the side. But the pressure was mounting. Kaiwan still breathing. Heavy now on the leash. Senoj wanting money yesterday. And the streets on fire wanting revenge for Lil B and Lil Boo. She leaned over and kissed Heavy deep, sealing the deal the only way she knew how. "Handle Kaiwan," she whispered against his lips. "Then we take over everything." Heavy smiled that big man smile again. "Bet!" Outside the condo, the Chattahoochee flowed dark and indifferent under the bridge lights. Columbus slept, but the streets were wide awake, whispers turning into plans, plans turning into bullets. Keisha had played her move, but in a game where the streets don't love nobody, every move came with a price. And the bill for 5 bricks of ice plus 2 dead young bloods was about to come due in blood and fire. Heavy Blood was now the hammer. Princess Savage and Kaiwan were the targets. And somewhere in Atlanta, a man in a wheelchair was already plotting how to turn the entire board upside down. The war had just leveled up. Chapter 6. No more wheels, only war. Kaiwan Harris knew he was a sitting duck in that damn wheelchair. Every creak of the wheels reminded him how close death had come. 2 bullets, 1 partner gone, 1 woman trying to finish the job from the grave she almost put him in. The safe house off Old National in Atlanta felt like a cage wrapped in luxury. Brandy, Princess Savage, had his back like always. AR-15 never far, eyes scanning every shadow like the army had trained her to do. But Kaiwan wasn't built to hide. He was built to hunt. He needed to recover. Fast. The streets didn't pause for bullet holes or hospital bills. Heavy Blood was already moving in Columbus, BMX breathing fire over Lil B and Lil Boo. Keisha was still out there with that 20 grand and whatever Sinoj cartel strings she was pulling. Time was a luxury Kaiwan couldn't afford. Only one name came to mind when he thought about getting right in record time. Tarhead. He made the call from a burner, voice still raspy, but the fire clear. "Tar, it's K1. I need that work. The real kind. I'm in Atlanta, but I'm coming back your way soon. Meet me at the spot off Cascade when I roll through Columbus." Tarhead didn't ask questions. He never did. Bet. Be there. 3 days later, after Brandy drove him back down, I-185 with one eye on the rear view the whole way, Tarhead pulled up in his old Cadillac Seville, pearl white with gold rims, looking more like a pimp from the 80s than the elite street fighter and MMA beast he was. Tarhead had been shot 4 times in his 31 years. Twice in the chest, once in the gut, once in the leg. And every time he was shot, he got back up and kept fighting the gut, once in the leg. And every time he came back harder, meaner, and with new scars that told stories nobody wanted to hear twice. He trained fighters in a dingy gym behind a closed auto shop on the south side, near Macon Road, and the rough edges of Carver Heights where the city pretended the hood didn't exist. The caddy stopped smooth. Tarhead stepped out. 6'2", 220 pounds of corded muscle, bald head shining under the streetlight, tattoos crawling up his neck like battle maps. Gold teeth flashed when he grinned. "Nup!" Brandy helped Kaiwan out of the Range Rover into the wheelchair, positioning him careful. Tarhead walked straight up. No handshake, no small talk. He looked Kaiwan dead in the eyes, then kicked the wheelchair hard with one Timberland boot. The chair flipped. Kaiwan hit the concrete with a grunt, pain exploding through his chest and stomach like fresh bullets tearing through old wounds. He rolled once, biting back a scream. Princess Savage moved lightning fast, hand dipping for the Glock tucked at her waist, eyes lethal. "The fuck?" Kaiwan started laughing, hard, the sound raw and real, cutting through the pain like a blade. "I should have expected that shit from you, Tar. Damn." Tarhead stood over him, arms crossed, that fighter's smirk in place. "Wheelchair make you soft, young blood. Streets don't wait on crutches. You want war? Get up on your own 2. Or stay down and let them finish what they started." Brandy's hand hovered near her gun a second longer, then relaxed when she saw Kaiwan pushing himself up slow, jaw clenched, sweat already beading on his forehead. No more wheelchair, no matter how much it hurt, no matter how many times his stitches pulled or his lungs burned like fire. From that day forward, he walked. Tarhead didn't baby him. He drove them to the old gym, a concrete box that smelled like sweat, blood, and cheap bleach. Heavy bags hung like hanged men. A battered ring sat in the center under flickering lights. Tarhead threw Kaiwan into it immediately. First week was hell. Kaiwan walked, barely. Every step sent lightning through his torso. Tarhead made him shadowbox slow, then faster, correcting form with sharp slaps to the ribs that hurt worse than the bullets sometimes. Pain is just the body reminding you it's still alive. Use it. By day 10, Kaiwan was on the heavy bag. Light punches at first, then harder. His wounds opened up again, blood seeping through the bandages, staining his wife-beater red. He staggered, vision blurring. Tarhead didn't stop him. Don't worry about it. They just cleaning themselves out faster. Let 'em bleed. Scar tissue coming next. Tougher than before. Kaiwan punched through it, teeth gritted, mind locked on faces. Keisha's smile while she grabbed the money. Lil B's last words before the Glock pushed his wig back, the black infinity casing the house. Every hit on the bag was a promise. Less than a month later, the scars had formed. Thick, raised lines across his chest and stomach that looked like war paint. Kaiwan moved different now. Not healed completely, but forged. Harder. Meaner. He stepped into the ring for quick rounds with Tarhead himself, the legend they called Human Hammer in underground MMA, circles from Atlanta to Phoenix City. Tarhead didn't go easy. Hooks to the body that tested the new scars. Elbows that made Kaiwan taste blood. But Kaiwan gave it back. Sloppy at first, then sharper. A left hook that actually made Tarhead step back and nod once. Wartime now, Tarhead said after one session, tossing Kaiwan a towel. You still slow in the midsection, but your heart louder than the pain. Use that. Kaiwan wiped sweat and a little blood from his lip. Appreciate the push, Tar. When this over, I got you on whatever you need. Tarhead waved it off. Just don't die stupid. Streets don't love nobody. Remember that when you pull in triggers. Back at the temporary spot Brandy had secured, a low-key apartment near the river on the Columbus side, Kaiwan made the next call. He needed his other half. The robbing crew. The one who moved like shadow and hit like a truck. B-Dog picked up on the first ring. K-Wan? Shit, nigga. Word was you ghost. Glad to hear you breathing. Breathing and ready, Kaiwan said, voice steady now. Need you, Bruno. Full press. Meet me at the old spot off Victory Drive. Bring whatever you holding. B-Dog. Real name never mattered to the ones who knew him. Laughed low. He was blood by flag, but loyal only to a tight circle. Always told Kaiwan straight. I ain't no regular blood, fam. I'm Piru. Compton roots in these veins. Different code. Kaiwan never split hairs on the sets. Piru, blood, whatever, as long as the loyalty held. And with B-Dog, it did. They'd pulled more licks together than a loaded pair of dice. Quick robberies on stash houses, armored car pressure plays back in the day, moving silent and violent when the money called. B-Dog rolled up 30 minutes later in a clean red Mercedes S56. Oh, gleaming under the streetlights like fresh blood. He stepped out. Tall, lean muscle. Dreads pulled back. Red flag tucked neat in his pocket. His girl Ruby Red, better known as Hothead, rode shotgun. Ruby was fire in human form. Light-skinned with wild red-dyed hair, pretty face that hid a temper that earned her the name. She'd cut a nigga over disrespect and smile while doing it. She hopped out carrying a duffel that clinked heavy. Extra straps, probably. Bruno, Kaiwan greeted, dapping him up strong despite the pull in his chest. He used the nickname B-Dog Loved, made him feel like the cartoon tough guy instead of just another set soldier. B-Dog grinned, gold grill flashing. Looking skinny but mean, K. Hospital diet, ain't it? What we on? I heard about Cap. Heard about the young BMX niggas that tried you in Atlanta. Heavy blood talking loud in the streets now. Kaiwan nodded, eyes hard. War. Keisha set the table. Senoj cartel might be seasoning it. We hitting back. Smart, then savage. You in? Always, B-Dog said without hesitation. Peru or blood, my word's solid with you. We robbed more than we breathed back then. This just another lick, but bigger, with bodies. Hothead leaned against the Mercedes, arms crossed, smirking. Y'all talk pretty. Just point me at who needs this hothead. I ain't come for chit-chat. Brandy stepped out from the shadows near the building. AR slung low but ready. She sized B-Dog and Ruby up once, then nodded approval. Good. We need hands that don't shake. Kaiwan walking now. No wheels. Tarhead beat the weak out him. The crew moved inside the apartment. Maps of Columbus and Atlanta spread on the table. Burners charging. Guns laid out like tools. Kaiwan laid it out clean. Find Keisha. Squeeze whoever fed her the info on the count. Pressure heavy blood before BMX swelled too big. And circle back to the Senoj plug if the green light traced there. 5 bricks of ice mentioned in whispers. Cartel moving meth now. Testing new distributors. Keisha probably in the middle, trying to flip the 20 grand into survival money. B-Dog leaned back, lighting a blunt. I got ears on the west side. Heavy big but slow. Football dreams gone wrong. We can peel his soldiers first. Make him chase ghosts. Taiwan flexed his hands, feeling the new toughness in the scars. The pain was still there, a constant reminder. But it fueled him now. No more sitting duck. No more waiting for the next infinity to roll by slow. Wartime, he said again, voice low and final. We move tomorrow. Quiet at first, then loud enough the whole south side hears it. Outside, Columbus hummed. Sirens distant toward Buena Vista Road. Bass from a passing car. The river sliding dark past the lights. Heavy blood was rallying BMX. Keisha was dodging ghosts while chasing cartel deadlines. Sinoj watched from the shadows. Faces in blenders waiting for the wrong move. But Kaiwan had Brandy the Savage, Tarhead the Hammer, B-Dog the Piru Robber, and Hothead the Flame. The wheelchair was gone. The weakness was scarred over, and the streets that didn't love nobody were about to get reminded why some men came back from the dead, meaner than the grave. Chapter 7. Ghost in the Family. Mama Joyce sat in the back room of the nondescript warehouse off Metropolitan Parkway in Atlanta, like a queen on a throne made of shadows and silence. She was the real muscle of the Senoi cartel. 62 years old, petite frame wrapped in a simple black pantsuit, silver hair pulled into a tight bun, reading glasses perched on her nose while she reviewed ledgers in a leather-bound book that looked older than most of her soldiers. Most times, she let her sons wear the crowns and give the orders. Thomas, her eldest, had just come home after 20 hard years in the Georgia state system. The family called prison his second home. He was as comfortable behind bars as he was on the streets, and even locked down he still ran the inside. Shanks, phones, product, politics, all of it flowing through him like blood through veins. But now, they called him the Ghost. Thomas Ghost. Senoj moved like smoke. Tall, lean, dark-skinned with cold eyes that had seen every version of hell the system could cook up, and still came out calculating. Prison hadn't broken him. It had refined him into something quieter and deadlier. He sat across from his mother now, freshly released, wearing a crisp white button-down and slacks like he was heading to a boardroom instead of ordering bodies dropped. A single gold chain rested against his chest. Simple, expensive, understated. The move on Kaiwan wasn't personal, Mama Joyce said softly, voice carrying the weight of decades in the game. It was business, pure. He turned down the invitation, laughed in our face. That kind of disrespect can't stand. Ghost nodded once, slow. His hands rested calm on the table, fingers interlaced. 2 years ago, one of our associates stepped to him with the chance, not just to be a customer, but to be part of the family. Senoj blood. Real structure. He turned it down laughing. Said he had his own thing. 9 life. Part of the gods. 5 percenters. Don't subscribe to kings or men, he claimed. Independent. Free agent type. Ghost's lip curled slightly, the closest he came to showing emotion. Privileged to even be offered a seat. Now he gotta learn what happens when you got no real allies. Mama Joyce closed the ledger with a soft snap. The boy was promising. Smart with the count. Loyal to his small circle. Moved weight clean. But pride is a hell of a drug. We tested him with that count on MLK. Let Keisha and the girl think they were running their own play. Fed them the location through Makia. Watched to see if he'd fold or fight. He survived. That made him dangerous. Now the street's talking. BMX on fire behind them two lil niggas that got smoked in Atlanta. Heavy blood moving loud. Keisha scrambling for that ice money we fronted her. Loose threads everywhere. Ghost leaned back, eyes distant like he was already walking through the chessboard in his mind. Keisha thinks she playing both sides. She'll get the 5 bricks, try to flip them fast, but she's soft. We gave her the green light on Kaiwan to clean her own mess. But if she fumbles, she becomes the next loose end. The ghost don't leave fingerprints. He stood up slow, adjusting his cuffs. Prison posture still clung to him. Shoulders squared, movements economical, every step measured. I'll handle the inside work myself. Reach out to the ones still locked who owe me. Make sure nobody in the system helps Kaiwan if he gets knocked again. On the streets, we let BMX and Heavy chase him for now. Let the young ones bleed each other. When the smoke clear, we step in quiet. Remind the boy what Sinoj really is. Mama Joyce watched her son with quiet pride. She had built this cartel from the ashes of older black mafia families. Strict code, brutal enforcement, legitimate fronts that made the feds look the other way most days. Her other sons handled the flash, the clubs, the cars, the women. But Thomas was the shadow, the one who made problems disappear, without the world ever hearing the scream. Kaiwan got that girl Brandy backing him now, she added. Princess Savage, army-trained shooter. And he pulled in Tarhead and that Peru robber B-Dog. They moving different since he walked out the wheelchair. Scars making him harder. Ghost allowed a small, cold smile. Good. Makes the lesson louder when it lands. No allies means no backup when the real pressure come. We got eyes on his mother too. Marlene. Churchwoman. But she raised him in these streets. If he pushes too hard, we remind him family can bleed same as anybody. The warehouse was quiet, except for the low hum of industrial fans and the distant traffic on the interstate. Sinoj Cartel didn't operate loud. They operated eternal. Product moved through legitimate trucking lines. Money washed through beauty supply chains and churches in the hood. Enforcement came through layers. Street soldiers like Makia and Keisha for the dirty work. Then Ghost for the cleanup when things got too messy. Ghost walked to the window, looking out over the Atlanta skyline. The 9 life thing. He think he above kings and men. 5%er talk. Gods and earths. We respect the knowledge, but business is business. He laughed at the offer. Now we show him the cost of independence. Start with cutting off his re-up lines. Then let Heavy Blood soften him up. When he's desperate, we offer the seat again. At double the price. In blood. Mama Joyce nodded, picking up her tea. Chamomile, always. Make it clean, Thomas. No fireworks unless necessary. The cartel expanding into the ice game heavy now. 5 bricks to Keisha is just the test run. We need Columbus locked tight without drama that brings the feds sniffing. Understood. Ghost turned, already mentally mapping the next moves. He pulled out a burner phone and made a quick call. Voice low, coded. Tell the inside. Kaiwan Harris, a.k.a. K1, 9 Life affiliate. Any protection he got in the system gets pulled. Quiet. Make it look like natural beef. He hung up and looked back at his mother. It's done. The ghost moving now. Outside the warehouse, Atlanta breathed its usual chaos. Sirens, bass thumping from cars on the highway. The constant pulse of a city that swallowed souls and spit out legends. Kaiwan was out there somewhere, walking on new scars, building his crew, thinking he could war against the streets that had already marked him for dead once. But Senoi was different. They didn't just kill bodies. They erased futures. Mama Joyce watched her son leave, the warehouse door closing soft behind him. She allowed herself one small sigh. The boy Kaiwan had potential. Real vision. Turning down the family offer had been stupid. Prideful. Now the lesson would be permanent. In a city where the streets don't love nobody, the Sinoj cartel loved even less. They only respected power. And right now, the ghost was walking the board, moving pieces nobody could see until it was too late. Chapter 8. Point made, no bodies dropped. Keisha Mills moved smart, always had, even when the streets tried to swallow her whole. She came up with the money for the 5 bricks of ice in under 20 hours. Cash, crisp and untraceable, bundled tight in a designer duffel she handed off to Mekia in the back parking lot of a quiet beauty supply store off Victory Drive. No shorting, no excuses. The Senoj plug took the payment without a word, just a nod that said, "Good girl." Don't fuck it up next time. Keisha didn't stop there. She pushed for more. Another 10 bricks on consignment, terms she negotiated like a seasoned distributor instead of a corner girl who'd just tried to murder her way to the top. The cartel liked ambition when it came wrapped in reliability. They agreed. The ice was hers to move, and the clock reset with heavier weight and higher stakes. Heavy blood had her back like a steel wall on fire. The big man burned the city down for her, quiet at first, then loud enough that every corner from Buena Vista to the river knew BMX was in beast mode. Heavy, and his crew rolled deep through Columbus, smashing rival spots, pressuring old debts, making examples out of anybody who even whispered Kaiwan's name with respect. Traps got flipped. Workers got slapped. Word spread fast. Keisha was protected. Touch her, and you touched Heavy, and Heavy didn't play. Kaiwan Harris was back in the game, but he wasn't chasing ice. He still moved weed and cocaine heavy, the classics that paid steady, and kept the fiends loyal without the volatile crash of meth. No need to reinvent the wheel when the old one still rolled with blood money. His scars had hardened into armor. The wheelchair was a memory. Tarhead's brutal training had him walking straight, punching harder, thinking clearer. Brandy stayed glued to his side like a beautiful shadow with an AR-15. B-Dog and Hothead rounded out the crew, ready to rob or ride on a moment's notice. Tonight they posted at the Foxy Lady on Victory Drive, the South Side strip club that had seen more drama than most churches saw prayers. Neon lights flashed pink and purple over the parking lot, packed with tricked-out cars and hopeful hustlers. Inside, the bass thumped heavy. Girls danced on poles and stages under black lights, money raining like green rain. The air smelled like perfume, sweat, weed smoke, and spilled liquor. Pool tables in the back, private rooms for the big spenders, bouncers who knew when to look the other way. Taiwan sat in a corner booth with B-Dog, a thick stack of hundreds on the table, making a play with one of the club's mid-level suppliers. Talking weight, talking re-up, talking percentages on some high-grade coke that just hit the city. Brandy lingered nearby at the bar, nursing a drink, but scanning every face. Hothead was on the floor, posted near the stage, red hair catching the lights like warning flares. Tarhead wasn't there. Too recognizable. Too much heat, but he was a phone call away. The play was smooth until it wasn't. Heavy Blood and 6 of his BMX soldiers kicked the front doors open like they owned the night. Heavy moved surprisingly light on his feet for 280 pounds, football muscles still intact, gold chain swinging as he scanned the room. His crew spread out fast, hoodies up, hands near waistbands, eyes hunting. "Everybody chill!" Heavy boomed over the music, voice carrying like a linebacker calling audibles. "We ain't here for the pussy tonight. We here for one nigga. K1! Where you at, hospital boy? You and that savage bitch thought y'all could smoke my lil' cousin and keep breathing?" The club froze for half a second. Dancers pausing mid-spin, customers ducking low, bouncers tensing, but smart enough not to jump first. Then chaos. Gunfire erupted from the back near Kaiwan's booth. B-Dog flipped the table for cover, returning fire with a compact .45. Pop, 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 dropping one BMX soldier's shoulder, but not killing him. Hothead dove behind a speaker, pulling a pistol and squeezing off rounds that shattered bottles behind the bar. Brandy moved like trained lightning, sliding low and letting the Glock speak in controlled bursts, clipping another soldier in the leg. Kaiwan stayed calm, scars pulling tight as he drew his own strap and fired from behind the overturned table. Bullets chewed through the air, shattering mirrors, ripping into stages, sending girls screaming for the exits. Patrons hit the floor, money scattering like confetti at a massacre. Heavy's crew sprayed wild, Dracos and Glocks barking loud, but they weren't trying for clean kills tonight. This was a message. Bullets punched holes in walls, tables flipped. The DJ booth took rounds that killed the music mid-track. One dancer caught a graze to the arm and went down screaming. No members on either side dropped dead, miraculous in the close quarters. But the point landed harder than any body count. Heavy stood tall in the middle of the madness, unfazed, voice cutting through the noise. "Kill on sight? Anybody rocking with K1 or Princess Savage? Y'all next. This city ours now." Then they were gone, backing out the doors, covering each other, tires screeching in the lot as they peeled off into the night. The Foxy Lady fell into shocked silence, broken only by moans, curses, and the distant wail of approaching sirens. Smoke hung thick. Blood spotted the floor in small puddles. Kaiwan rose slow from behind the table, chest tight but lungs holding, new scars burning like fresh reminders. B-Dog dapped him quick, breathing hard. They came heavy, but sloppy. Message received, though. Brandy was already at his side, Glock still hot, eyes scanning for secondary threats. Nobody dead on our end. Their side took some tags, but walked out. Point made. War just got louder. Hothead wiped a smear of blood from her cheek, not hers, and grinned feral. Red hair, red floors now. I like it. Kaiwan holstered up, mind already shifting gears. The play with the supplier was dead for tonight, but the real work had just started. Heavy burning the city for Keisha meant BMX was all in. Keisha had the ice money and was pushing for more. Sinoj expanding, testing her. But Kaiwan wasn't touching that volatile shit. Weed and coke kept him solid, kept the loyal fiends coming back. Outside in the parking lot, as they loaded into the red Mercedes and Brandy's range, Kaiwan felt the shift. No more sitting duck. The shootout proved his crew could hold weight. But the Sinoj shadow loomed bigger now. Whispers of cartel hands pulling strings on the hit that started all this. Miles away, in a quiet Atlanta safe house, Thomas Ghost Sinoj sat alone reviewing reports from the streets. His burner lit up with details from the Foxy lady. Shootout, no fatalities, heavy blood declaring kill on sight. Kaiwan walking out, breathing and moving. Ghost leaned back, a rare flicker crossing his cold eyes. He didn't know why. Maybe the old prison respect for a man who refused the easy crown? Maybe the way Kaiwan had laughed at the offer 2 years back, like he truly believed in his own path with the 9. Life, the gods, the 5%ers who bowed to no kings or men. Maybe because deep down, in the part of him that prison hadn't fully killed, Ghost was quietly rooting for the young nigga. Kaiwan was supposed to win this kind of war. The independent ones sometimes did, until they didn't. But for now, Ghost let the pieces move. He wouldn't intervene yet. Let Heavy and Keisha soften the board. Let Kaiwan's scars prove their worth. When the time came, the lesson would hit different if the boy had fought his way to the edge first. The Ghost exhaled slow, staring at the city lights through bulletproof glass. The streets don't love nobody, but sometimes, even shadows watch to see who earned the right to keep breathing. Back in Columbus, sirens painted the night red and blue as Kaiwan's crew disappeared into the back streets. The Foxy lady would reopen in a day or two. Hood spots always did, but the message echoed louder than any bass. Kill on sight. War was live, and somewhere in the mix, a cartel ghost was quietly pulling for the underdog, who refused the throne, for now. Chapter 9. Gods rise, streets shift. Kaiwan Harris felt the turn in his bones the moment the last echo of gunfire died inside the Foxy lady. The club shootout wasn't just another hood beef. It was the streets announcing that the rules had changed overnight. Heavy Blood had drawn a hard line in Blood and Bass. Kill on sight for anybody rocking with K1 or Princess Savage. BMX was burning Columbus block by block for Keisha, and Keisha herself was locked in tighter with the Senoi cartel, flipping ice like it was candy while pushing for bigger weight. The Ghost and Mama Joyce were somewhere in the shadows, moving pieces nobody could see yet. Even the air in the city felt heavier, like the Chattahoochee itself was holding its breath. Kaiwan sat in the back of Brandy's Range Rover as they peeled away from the chaos, new scars pulling tight across his chest every time he breathed. B-Dog drove the red Mercedes right behind them, Hothead riding shotgun with her pistol still warm. Tarhead was already on a separate burner, coordinating cleanup and eyes on the streets. No bodies dropped tonight, but the message was clear. The war had leveled up from personal to all out. Kaiwan stared out the tinted window at the passing lights of Victory Drive, mind racing faster than the tires. He knew he couldn't fight this with just his small circle anymore, no matter how savage Brandy was, how solid B-Dog stayed, or how mean Tarhead trained him. The Senoj cartel played chess with prisons and ledgers, while BMX played checkers with Dracos. He needed more than shooters. He needed structure. He needed the gods. It was time to call up the rest of the 9 life. The gods were forever changeable, but remainable. Knowledge that shifted with the times, but never lost its core. 5%ers who built on supreme mathematics, who saw the black man as God in his own universe, who didn't bow to kings, queens, or cartels. They moved different. No flags that got you killed for colors alone. No blind loyalty to sets that forgot the lessons. Just supreme understanding, righteous living when possible, and righteous war when necessary. Kaiwan had claimed 9 life 2 years back after rejecting the Sinoj offer, laughing in their face because he believed his own mathematics added up higher than any family throne they offered. Now that decision was coming due, and he needed the cipher to balance the equation. He made the first call from a fresh burner while Brandy drove smooth toward the safe spot near the river. Knowledge supreme, the voice answered on the second ring. Deep, calm, layered with that old-school wisdom that made younger gods listen even when they didn't want to. Knowledge supreme was the anchor, the one who taught lessons in parking lots and prison yards alike, tall and slender with a beard that carried gray streaks like battle ribbons. He ran a small community center on the north side that doubled as a front for righteous hustling. Weed, books, and building black mines when the streets allowed it. Supreme, Kaiwan said low, voice steady despite the adrenaline still buzzing. It's K1. 9 life. The streets just turned hot. BMX and Heavy Blood declared kill on sight after the Foxy Lady. Oh, he might be the shadow behind the first hit that put me in the hospital. I need the gods. Full cipher. Knowledge supreme didn't hesitate. The gods are changeable but remainable, young god. We adapt. We endure. Where you at? Heading to the river spot. Bring who you trust. We build tonight. Next call went to Two Sun. Real name never mattered in the cipher, but everybody knew him as the strategist with solar vision. Two Sun was shorter, stocky, always in fitted caps and Timbs. Eyes sharp like he saw the mathematics playing out 3 moves ahead. He answered from what sounded like a moving car, bass low in the background. Two Sun, it's K1. Wartime. Heavy burning the city for Keisha and the cartel ice play. I turned down Senoj 2 years back. They still holding that. Need the gods to balance this. Two Sun chuckled low. Mathematics don't lie, God. You rejected the false throne then. Now the false throne sending pawns. I'm pulling up. Cipher at the river? Cipher at the river. The last and most respected call went to Nineborn Allah, better known as NBA on the streets and in the yards. NBA was the living legend among the gods. Mid-40s, built like a quiet storm. Dreads long and neat. Face calm, but eyes carrying the weight of every lesson earned in cages from Reedsville to Coastal. He had walked through more wars than most, survived more setups than bullets could count, and still taught supreme mathematics like it was oxygen. Nineborn, because he was born again in the knowledge after his first bid. Allah, because he lived the God in him without apology. On the streets, they called him NBA, because his presence alone could shift a whole block, like the league's MVP dropping dimes in the 4th quarter. NBA picked up on the first ring, voice smooth and measured. Peace, God K1. Heard the streets whispering your name heavy tonight. Foxy Lady turned into a range. You good? Breathing. Scars tougher, but the equation unbalanced. Senoj ghost moving, BMX on kill on sight, Keisha flipping cartel ice. I need the full gods, changeable but remainable. Build with me. NBA didn't waste breath. The gods move as one when the cipher calls. I'm en route. River spot. Bring the knowledge. We'll add up what needs subtracting. By the time they reached the safe apartment overlooking the dark Chattahoochee, the gods were already converging. Knowledge Supreme arrived first in an old but clean black Impala, stepping out with a duffel of books and straps, wisdom and war in the same bag. Two Sun pulled up minutes later, carrying maps and a laptop for tracking digital trails on Senoj and BMX. Then, NBA rolled in quiet on a motorcycle. No flash, just presence that made the night feel heavier and lighter at the same time. They gathered in the living room, windows blacked out, one lamp on, guns laid out on the table beside notebooks filled with supreme mathematics. Brandy stood guard near the door, AR ready, respecting the cipher, but ready to savage anything that interrupted. B-Dog and Hothead posted outside, watching the perimeter. Tarhead linked in on speaker from his gym, voice gruff but solid. Kaiwan stood in the center. No wheelchair, no limp. Scars visible under his wife-beater where the shirt rode up. He laid it out raw, mathematics style. The streets tried to subtract me once. Hospital bed, breathing tube, and 20 grand gone. Cap lost. Now heavy in BMX adding pressure for Keisha, Who riding with Senoj Ice? The ghost moving quiet. Prison control. Cartel family. 2 years back, I laughed at their throne offer. Said I had my own build. 9 life. Gods don't bow to kings or men. But now the false powers testing that truth. We changeable. Adapt the hustle. Shift the product lanes. Build new alliances. But remainable. Hold the knowledge. Hold the unity. Hold the war righteous. Knowledge Supreme nodded slow, stroking his beard. Supreme Mathematics God. 189. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. You gained knowledge in the streets. Wisdom in surviving the bullets. Now understanding comes through the cipher. Senoi think they kings. We gods. Different equation. 2 suns spread the maps. BMX burning blocks for Keisha. She got the ice moving. 5 bricks flipped, 10 more coming. Senoj expanding meth lanes while you hold weed and coke solid. We hit their re-up spots. Quiet first. Disrupt the ice flow. Make Heavy chase his own tail. Then the ghost. Prison ties mean we need inside eyes too. I got connects who can pull protection off their soldiers if it goes that way. NBA leaned forward. Dread's framing a face carved from years of righteous living and righteous fighting. His voice carried the weight that made younger gods straighten up. 9-born Allah here to remind. The gods forever changeable, but remainable. We adapt the tactics. Rob their traps, flip their workers, build our own mathematics in the community so the streets see who really elevating. But we remain on the square. No snitching, no bowing, no false thrones. Kaiwan, you rejected Senoj because you saw the lie in their offer. Now we make them regret sending pawns at a god. Brandy Savage, Tarhead Hammer, B-Dog Piru, all welcomed in the cipher if they build right. Hothead too. Fire got its place in the mathematics. Brandy nodded from her post, respect in her eyes. She wasn't 5%er by birth, but she moved like one. Loyal, strategic, savage when needed. I shoot for him, die for him. Build with y'all if it keeps him breathing. The cipher built deep into the night. Notebooks filled with plans. Hit a Senoj-affiliated spot moving ice through a strip club on the west side. Pressure one of Heavy's lieutenants for info on Keisha's location. Use NBA's respected name to pull in more gods from Atlanta and Phoenix City. Knowledge Supreme dropped lessons between strategy. How pride subtracted from power. How unity multiplied survival. 2 Sun mapped digital trails on burners and bank drops. NBA sealed it with the final understanding. We don't chase the streets. We elevate above them. But when they come for a god, we subtract the threat with precision. By sunrise, the equation had shifted again. Kaiwan stood taller, scars feeling less like wounds and more like badges. The gods were in, changeable in tactics, remainable in principle. No more lone wolf. The 9-life cipher added layers Senoj and BMX couldn't calculate. Outside, the river kept flowing indifferent, but the streets of Columbus and Atlanta were about to learn a new mathematics. Heavy Blood thought he could burn the city for Keisha. Keisha thought the cartel ice would buy her safety. The ghost thought quiet moves would erase the independent god who laughed at their throne. But the gods had answered the call. Kaiwan wasn't just surviving anymore. He was building, and in a game where the streets don't love nobody, the 9-life was about to show what real power looked like when knowledge, wisdom, and understanding moved as one, changeable, remainable, and ready for war. Chapter 10. Storms in the sheets and rats in the house. Keisha loved how Heavy connected with her in the bedroom. It wasn't love. Love was for suckers and church girls. This was power, rhythm, and raw survival, wrapped in sweat and moans. Another one of their storms. Heavy Blood had her bent over the edge of the king bed in her Rapids condo, the city lights sparkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows like they were cheering the show. His massive 280-pound frame moved behind her with surprising control, that football star muscle still delivering punishment stroke after punishing stroke. She had learned to take the staff, all of it, with all his weight. Thick, heavy, reaching damn near to his knees when soft and rising like a damn club when the mood hit. Keisha threw it back now, hips rolling in that chaotic rhythm she'd perfected, ass clapping back against him while her long jet-black hair swung like a whip. She wasn't some passive rider anymore. She met every thrust, matching the storm, turning his aggression into her own weapon. "Throw it up," Heavy growled, voice thick and low as he gripped her hair, yanking her head back hard enough to arch her spine. "Gang signs, Keisha. Let me see that BMX blood." Keisha laughed, breathy, pain mixing sweet with the pleasure, and threw up the gang signs with both hands. B's crossed, fingers locked in the blood configuration while her body kept working. Heavy punished her deeper for it, slamming home with that big man force that made her knees buckle and her walls clench. The world narrowed to the slap of skin, the wet sounds, the bed creaking like it might break under the weight of their war. "The world is ours," Heavy muttered, breath hot against her ear, knees growing weak as the pressure built. "BMX takeover. Senoj ice. Kaiwan and that savage bitch gon' learn. We own these streets." Keisha pushed back harder, riding the edge, her own orgasm crashing first. Body shaking, a scream tearing from her throat that echoed off the glass. Heavy followed right behind, exploding deep inside her with a guttural groan, flooding her as his massive frame trembled. He collapsed half on top of her, both of them breathing like they'd just run a full football field in pads. For a minute, the only sound was their ragged breathing and the distant hum of Columbus traffic below. Keisha smiled into the sheets, satisfied on more than one level. Heavy was locked in now, dickmatized, loyal, burning the city for her. The 5 bricks of ice were already moving fast through her network, the extra 10 on the way. Senoj was feeding her more because she delivered. And Kaiwan? Still breathing, but the kill-on-sight order from the Foxy Lady shootout had the streets nervous. Everything was lining up. Heavy rolled off, pulling her close with one thick arm. "You mine now, Keisha. For real. We flip this ice, take Kaiwan's coke and weed lanes, then the whole corridor from here to Atlanta ours." Keisha kissed his chest, hiding the calculation in her eyes. "All yours, baby. Just keep the pressure on. Make them gods. And that savage regret ever breathing." Miles away, in the quiet Senoj command center hidden behind a legitimate trucking depot in Atlanta, Mama Joyce watched everything move like a master chess player who had seen too many boards burn. She was the real muscle. Always had been. Her sons wore the flash, but Mama Joyce pulled the invisible strings. Tonight, she sat at the long table reviewing live feeds, manifests, and burner reports. Everything had been smooth until the Texas shipment pinged late. 500 kilos, 1,000 pounds, of high-grade weed coming up I-85, destined for distribution through Columbus and Atlanta lanes. The driver called once, short and coded. "Package here?" Then hung up. Standard protocol. But Mama Joyce felt the setup in her gut. Years in the game had sharpened her instincts into razors. She didn't trust late anymore. Not with Kaiwan's gods mobilizing, not with heavy blood wilding, not with the ghost already moving quiet pieces. "Change of plans," she told her 2 closest lieutenants, voice calm but steel-edged. "Receive it at the Love gas station in Hogansville, Georgia. Off the highway, low traffic. If it feels wrong, don't touch the product. Send a foot soldier to steal the truck instead. Most he can catch is theft by taking. Keep the family clean." The lieutenants nodded and made the calls. Ross, young, hungry foot soldier, barely 21 with more ambition than sense, got the order. He pulled up to the Love's truck stop in a stolen Malibu, matte black and untraceable. His partner, Screwface riding shotgun. Screwface was quiet muscle, face twisted from an old knife fight that earned him the name. They moved like pros. Scoped the big rig parked in the back lot near the diesel pumps. Driver nowhere in sight. "Easy," Ross muttered, grabbing a screwdriver from the glove box. "Just boost and bounce. Mama Joyce overreacting? But we eat regardless." They popped the ignition quick. Old school hot wire on the big rig's simple system. Ross slid behind the wheel, Screwface in the passenger seat. The truck rumbled to life, heavy with its hidden cargo. Ross hit the highway heading south toward Columbus, thinking this was just cartel paranoia. 1,000 pounds of weed? Nice score if they could flip it. But Mama Joyce said steal and dump if hot. Before he made it 3 miles, the night sky turned blue. Police lights everywhere. State troopers, unmarked units, even a helicopter chopping overhead. Road spikes deployed ahead. Ross floored it, the big rig groaning as he tried to weave through traffic. "Fuck, it's a sit-up." Screwface gripped the dash. "Lose 'em?" Ross gave them a run, swerving, clipping a cruiser, pushing the rig to speeds it wasn't built for. Sirens screamed. Bullets didn't fly, but the chase was vicious. Finally, a PIT maneuver from a trooper sent the truck sliding off the road into the grassy median. It rolled once, coming to a violent stop on its side. Ross and Screwface were yanked out at gunpoint, cuffed, faces ground into the dirt. "Drug trafficking," one trooper barked. "You got 1,000 pounds of weed in there, boy. That's major." Ross laughed through the blood on his lip, playing dumb perfect. "Man, I was just stealing the truck for a chop shop. Had no idea what was inside. Swear on everything. Theft, by taking. That's all y'all got on me." The lawyer made it easy in the end. No fingerprints tying Ross to the load beyond the boost. No prior on the manifest. Couldn't prove knowing and willing possession. The case fell apart in prelim. Ross walked on the big charges, copped to a minor theft beef with time served. Screwface caught a little more, but nothing that touched the family. Mama Joyce sat alone in the command center when the full report hit her burner. She realized it in that exact moment, cold and clear as ice. They had a rat in the house. Somebody inside the Senoy family was rotten, feeding information, timing the bust, setting up the late shipment to expose the route, the driver's single short call, the sudden swarm of law enforcement, the way the truck was tagged perfect. Not random. Internal. Her small hands tightened around the teacup until the porcelain creaked. Mama Joyce didn't rage. She calculated. The ghost would handle the streets. Her other sons the flash. But this was family cancer. It had to be exterminated. Quiet, thorough, merciless, no loose ends. No mercy for blood that betrayed blood. She picked up the phone and called her most trusted cleaner. Find the rat. Start with the ones who knew the original route. Work inward. When you locate the rotten one, make it slow. Make it a message. Senoj don't tolerate snakes. The line clicked dead. Back in her condo, Keisha lay tangled in Heavy's massive arms, the afterglow still warm on her skin. She had no idea the cartel storm brewing miles away. No idea that Mama Joyce had just declared internal war. No idea that her own ambitions with the ice might soon brush against that same rat investigation. Heavy snored lightly beside her, spent and satisfied, still muttering, "World is ours," in his sleep. Keisha smiled into the darkness, tracing a finger over his chest. The world might be theirs for now. But in the Senoj house, the rat was about to learn that betrayal carried a heavier staff than even heavy blood could swing. And somewhere across the city, Kaiwan and the gods were building their own mathematics, changeable, remainable, ready to exploit every crack in the cartel armor. The streets don't love nobody. Tonight, even family didn't love family. And the exterminator was already moving. Chapter 11. Hailstorm in Red. Nineborn Allah. NBA to the streets, God to the cipher, had always been a one-man army. He rolled into East Winton on the south side of Columbus just after midnight, the BMW 1000 motorcycle purring low and mean under him like a caged animal. The all-blood hood was lit up with corner boys and trap lights, red flags waving from porches and antennas like they owned the night. NBA killed the engine 2 blocks over, tucked the bike behind a rusted fence in an alley that smelled like piss and fried fish. He was dressed to blend, red hoodie pulled low, red bandana tied tight around his dreads, red Timbs scuffed just enough to look lived in, no flash, no noise. Just a god walking through enemy territory, like it was Sunday service. He moved smooth, shoulders relaxed, head on a swivel the way prison yards taught a man to stay alive. The trap house sat at the end of the block, porch sagging under the weight of 30 deep BMX soldiers posted up like they were invincible, laughing loud, passing blunts, flashing guns and gang signs. Heavy Blood's crew, still riding high off the Foxy Lady shootout and the kill-on-sight order. They had no idea the mathematics had shifted. NBA stepped out of the shadows at the edge of the yard, Mini Draco already sliding out from under the hoodie. The compact machine pistol felt like an extension of his arm, oiled, suppressed, 30-round drum locked and hungry. The first burst was surgical. It looked like he came through with a weed eater the way the crowd fell. Bodies jerked and spun, red bandanas and hoodies blooming darker as bullets chewed through flesh and bone. Screams cut the night, some cut short, others turning into gurgles. NBA walked forward calm, stitching the porch left to right, dropping soldiers mid-laugh, mid-reach for their straps. One big nigga tried to lift a Draco of his own. NBA put 3 in his chest before the barrel cleared leather. Another dove for cover behind a car. The mini Draco walked him down like a lawnmower on tall grass. 30 deep became chaos in under 10 seconds. NBA didn't waste rounds on the ones already twitching. He jogged backward smooth, still sweeping the porch for any movement, then turned and broke for the alley. Sirens were already waking up in the distance, but East Winton knew better than to chase a ghost in red. He reached the BMW 1000, swung a leg over, kicked it alive, and popped a wheelie hard, front tire lifting clean as he roared off into the night, red taillight disappearing like a warning nobody would forget. At the exact same moment, on the west side near the old mill district, Tucson was handling business his way. The strategist had pulled up quiet in a stolen black Impala. No motorcycle flash, just mathematics in motion. He hit the second BMX trap alone. Smaller spot, but key re-up point for the ice and guns they were pushing for Keisha. Tucson moved like smoke through the back door, suppressed 45 in one hand, flex cuffs in the other. He caught the 3 soldiers inside mid-count, money and product on the table. "God say peace," he said low, then put the first one down with 2 to the chest. The second tried to reach. Tucson cracked him across the temple with the pistol and cuffed him to the radiator. The third got smart and dropped to his knees. Tucson zip-tied him quick, then torched the table, money, bricks of ice, and all. Flames licking up fast while he walked out the front like he owned the sidewalk. Both strikes hit within minutes of each other. Coordinated. Clean. The war was officially on, and BMX was boxing with the gods. Their arms were too short. Word ripped through Columbus faster than the bullets had flown. Phones lit up. Group chats exploded. Heavy Blood got the first reports while he was still half-dressed in Keisha's condo, pulling on his jeans with one hand and answering the burner with the other. His face twisted from satisfaction to pure rage in seconds. 30 niggas? 1 man? A fucking wheelie? He slammed the phone down, chest heaving. That's that NBA. God shit. Kaiwan called in the whole cipher. We hit back harder. Tonight. Keisha sat up in the bed, sheets pooled around her waist, still glowing from the storm they'd just finished. Baby, stay smart. Senno's watching. Don't let them pull you into a trap. Heavy wasn't hearing it. He was already dialing his remaining lieutenants, voice booming through the condo. Find them gods. Find K1. Burn every spot they touch. Across town in the river safe house, B-Dog's phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. He answered on speaker, voice tight. The crew was still buzzing from the coordinated hits. NBA and Tucson linking up on a quick report. Tarhead and Brandy checking perimeters. Kaiwan pacing with fresh energy in his scars. The voice on the other end was cold, young, and full of that BMX cockiness. B-Dog? Or should I say Peru sellout? We got your bitch Ruby Red. Hothead. She pretty when she ain't talking shit. You want her back breathing? Handle Kaiwan. Tonight. Walk up on that nigga and push his wig back yourself. Or we send her back to you in pieces. Red hair and all. The line went dead. B-Dog's face went stone. His hand tightened around the phone until the plastic creaked. Ruby Red? His ride or die? The one who'd cut niggas for looking at her wrong. The flame that kept him grounded. Snatched. He looked across the room at Kaiwan, eyes hard but conflicted. Loyalty to the gods. Loyalty to the Peru code. Loyalty to the woman who'd ride through hell with him. Kaiwan caught the look. What it is, Bruno? B-Dog didn't speak right away. The war had just gotten personal in the worst way. BMX wasn't playing chess anymore. They were grabbing pieces off the board and holding them hostage. The gods had struck first, hard and precise, but now the counter was coming with a knife to the throat of someone who mattered. NBA's motorcycle was still echoing in the distance somewhere. Tucson was already ghosting back toward the safe spot with the smell of burned product on his clothes. The cipher was winning the night. But B-Dog's phone felt like a live grenade in his palm. He finally spoke, voice low and deadly. They got Ruby. Say she dead unless I handle you, 'kay? Tonight. The room went still. Brandy's hand drifted toward her AR. Tarhead's voice crackled over the speaker from his location, already loading clips. Knowledge Supreme and the rest of the gods would get the word in minutes. Kaiwan met B-Dog's eyes dead on. Two men who had robbed more traps together than they could count, who trusted each other with their lives, even when Set said they shouldn't. The war had just turned into something uglier than bullets, and the gods were changeable. But this was about to test how remainable their bond really was. Chapter 12. Family. Forgive family. The family is all we got. That was the Sinoj mantra, drilled into every soldier, every lieutenant, every blood relative from the cradle to the grave. Mama Joyce lived by it like scripture. Betray the family, and the family erased you. No exceptions. No mercy. No second chances. Inside the private office of Pastor Tony's megachurch on the east side of Atlanta, the air smelled like polished wood, old Bibles, and fresh fear. The pastor, big, charismatic, the kind of man who filled stadium-sized sanctuaries on Sunday mornings and moved weight for Sonoy on the low through charity donations, sat tied to a heavy oak chair. Tears carved clean tracks down his round face, snot bubbling at his nose. His expensive suit was wrinkled and damp with sweat. They said they wouldn't do any harm, he sobbed, voice cracking like a little boy. Just wanted info. Said they would expose me to the whole world. The women, the drug use, the gambling. Big Mama Joyce, can you please forgive me? Family forgive family. Mama Joyce stood across the room in a simple black dress, hands clasped in front of her like she was attending a funeral. Her eyes were ice. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. J.K. Jasmine. J.K. Sinoj, one of Mama Joyce's most trusted nieces and the family's most ruthless killer, stepped forward, light-skinned and beautiful, with high cheekbones, full lips, and long lashes that made men underestimate her until it was too late. She wore all black, hair pulled back tight, a single gold cross hanging around her neck like a joke. Mercy was not in her vocabulary. Her favorite saying was simple and final. Choose a side and stay there. Uncle Tony, J.K. said softly, almost tender, circling the chair like a predator. You chose the wrong side when you opened your mouth to the feds. You sold the Texas route for a lighter sentence and a pat on the head. That shipment cost us. Ross almost took the fall for 1,000 pounds because of you. Pastor Tony's sobs grew louder, body shaking against the ropes. I was scared. They had pictures, videos. I thought if I gave them a little, J.K. pulled the long, curved blade from the sheath at her hip. The steel caught the light from the stained glass window behind the desk. Family forgive family, she echoed his words, voice dripping with mock sympathy. But betrayal don't get forgiven. It gets cut out. She shoved the blade deep into his chest, right between the ribs, twisting once with surgical precision. Pastor Tony's eyes widened, a wet gurgle escaping his throat. His body jerked once, twice, then slumped forward against the ropes. Blood spread dark across his white shirt, pooling on the expensive carpet. J.K. wiped the blade clean on his suit jacket and sheathed it. Chose a side and stay there, Uncle. You chose wrong. Mama Joyce nodded once, satisfied. The rat was exterminated. The message would spread through the family like wildfire. Even the pastor wasn't safe. The ghost would handle the streets. J.K. would handle the inside. Senoy would stay pure. No one spoke as they left the office. The megachurch sat quiet in the early morning hours, its massive cross glowing above the parking lot like a silent witness. Family was all they had. And family had just reminded itself what that really meant. Back in the River Safe House in Columbus, the attention in the room was almost electric. The air felt thick enough to cut with a knife. Kaiwan stood near the window overlooking the dark Chattahoochee, back turned to the crew. B-Dog, Bruno, held the Glock in his shaking hand, barrel pointed at the center of Kaiwan's back. Ruby Red's life hung in the balance. BMX had her. One shot, and she might live. One hesitation, and she died screaming. The gods had struck hard tonight. NBA's hailstorm in East Winton, sun torching the West Side Trap. The war was live, but now BMX had grabbed a piece off the board and was holding it hostage. Kaiwan's voice came low and deep, steady as steel. My loyalty is beyond death, Bruno. Never would I go against you. We robbed more traps together than most niggas breathe. Peru, blood, 9 life. Don't matter. You, my brother. If pulling that trigger saves Ruby, do what you gotta do. B-Dog felt a single tear roll down his cheek. The Glock felt heavier than any gun he'd ever held. His finger tightened on the trigger. The room held its breath, Brandy's hand hovering near her own strap, Tarhead on the speaker ready to ride, the rest of the gods waiting for the mathematics to play out. The shot echoed through the apartment like thunder. Boom! Kaiwan didn't flinch. He turned around slow, eyes calm, expecting the burn of lead in his back. Instead, he saw a B-dog laying face down on the hardwood, half his face gone, blood spreading in a dark halo around what was left of his head. Princess Savage stood behind where B-dog had been, her Glock still raised, barrel smoking. She lowered the gun smooth, voice cold and final. I'll die and kill for you. The words hung in the air like smoke after the blast. Brandy stepped forward, eyes locked on Kaiwan. No regret, no hesitation. He was my brother too, but you my world. Ruby Red would have done the same if the roles flipped. We don't fold to threats. We end them. Kaiwan stared at the body on the floor. His ride or die. The man who had pulled countless licks beside him. The one who always said, I ain't regular blood, I'm Pyru, gone. One shot from the woman who loved him enough to paint the walls red. Tarhead's voice crackled over the speaker, breaking the silence. Cleanup crew rolling. We move the body quiet. War don't stop for tears. Hothead, Ruby Red's best friend in the crew, stood frozen for a second, then nodded once. Eyes wet but hard. She'd want blood for this. Not excuses. The gods were already adjusting. Knowledge Supreme and NBA would get the word. Tucson was mapping the next strike. The cipher remained changeable. Tactics shifted, but remainable in its core. Loyalty tested. Loyalty redefined in blood. Kaiwan walked over to Brandy, cupped her face with both hands, and kissed her forehead. You chose a side, and stayed there. I love you for it. She holstered the smoking Glock. Always. Outside, Columbus slept under a thin moon, sirens wailing somewhere far off. Another night, another body the streets would try to swallow. BMX thought they could break the gods with a hostage play. Sinoi thought they could keep their house clean with one blade to the chest. But the war had just gotten bloodier. B-Dog was gone. Ruby Red was still in the wind. And Princess Savage had drawn a line in red that nobody would forget. The family, whatever was left of it, was all they had now. And in these streets, family meant pulling the trigger when it counted. Chapter 13. Willing Alley, Hidden Blades. Information was always the most valuable currency in the streets, more valuable than product, more dangerous than bullets, and twice as hard to verify. Heavy Blood got the word while he was still riding high from the night's chaos. One of his surviving lieutenants hit his burner from a back alley in East Winton, voice low and rattled. B-Dog got smoked, big homie. Inside the god's spot, Princess Savage pulled the trigger herself, half his face gone. They moving the body now. Heavy smiled wide, gold fronts flashing in the dim light of Keisha's condo. He ended the call and walked back into the bedroom, where Ruby Red, Hothead, was now sitting upright on the edge of the bed, wrists no longer zip-tied, eyes sharp and calculating. She wasn't a hostage anymore. The news of B-Dog's death had flipped the script. Grief hit her hard at first, red hair wild, fists clenched, but it quickly hardened into something colder, something useful. Heavy dropped the information like a loaded clip. Your man gone, Red. Gods turned on him. Savage bitch did the work herself. Kaiwan didn't even flinch. They chose sides and left you out here to rot. Ruby Red absorbed it slow, jaw tight, tears drying on her cheeks before they could fall. B-Dog, Bruno, had been her rock, her partner in every lick and every late-night ride. But the streets didn't love nobody. And right now, survival and revenge tasted sweeter than morning. She looked up at Heavy, then over at Keisha standing in the doorway, watching everything with those sharp, corner-of-the-eye glances. I ain't no hostage no more, Ruby Red said, voice steady, laced with that hothead fire. I'm a willing ally. Tell me what you need. I know Kaiwan's crew inside out, their safe spots, how Brandy moves, how Tarhead trains. I can get close. Help you burn the rest of them gods. Keisha watched her out the corner of her eyes the whole time. She could see it clear as day. Ruby Red loved power just like her, the same hungry glint, the same way she leaned into Heavy's massive frame a little too comfortable, laughing at his jokes a little too loud, touching his arm when she talked, playing a little too close. Keisha didn't like competition, especially not from a red-haired flame who had just lost her man and was already positioning herself for the next throne. Ruby wanted Keisha gone too. She could feel it in the air. That silent sizing up between two women who both knew how to use sex, lies, and violence to climb. But for now, their interests aligned. Keisha stepped fully into the room, arms crossed under her chest, voice smooth, but edged. Good, we use that. You know Princess Savage is Kaiwan's backbone. The bitch got military training and a savage heart. She pulled the trigger on your man without blinking. So she gotta die slow and painful. Make her watch everything she loves burn first. Her man, her crew, her name on the streets. Then we peel her apart, piece by piece. Heavy nodded, pulling Ruby Red closer with one thick arm, his massive hand resting possessive on her thigh. World is ours, remember? BMX, running Columbus. Senyoj, feeding us ice. Kaiwan's gods thought they could hailstorm our traps and walk away. Now we hit back smarter. Ruby, you get inside their circle. Feed us locations. We set the trap for Savage first. Ruby Red leaned into him, eyes flicking to Keisha for a split second, something dark and ambitious flashing there. Before she smiled sweet. I got you. Both of you. Brandy thinks she the only rider. I'll make her regret ever touching Bruno. Slow, painful, just like she did him. The three of them sat in the condo, plodding deep into the night. Maps on the table, burners lighting up with updates from BMX soldiers still licking their wounds from NBA's wheelie exit and Tucson's torch job. Heavy's crew was regrouping, angrier and more focused. The kill-on-sight order had teeth now. Ruby Red was the new weapon, willing, knowledgeable, and burning with fresh grief she could channel into betrayal. Keisha kept watching her, corner of the eye style, smiling on the outside while her mind worked. Ruby loved power, wanted Keisha gone. That made her dangerous. But for right now, she was useful. Once Kaiwan's crew was shattered and Princess Savage was screaming, Keisha would deal with the red-haired threat too. No loose ends. No shared thrones. Heavy stood up eventually, stretching his big frame, the football muscles still intimidating even in casual clothes. We move at dawn. Ruby rides with me. Keisha, you keep the ice flipping clean. Senoj don't like delays. I'll handle the streets. Keisha nodded, pulling him in for a deep kiss before he left, staking her claim in front of the new ally. Ruby Red watched with that same calculating smile, already planning her own moves. As the door closed behind Heavy, Keisha turned to Ruby Red alone in the room. The two women sized each other up in silence for a long beat. You play your part right, Keisha said, soft, dangerous. We all eat. You cross me? Well, you already know how the game go. Slow and painful. Ruby Red stood up slow, red hair catching the low light like fire. Same goes for you, Keisha. I lost my man tonight. I ain't losing nothing else. We destroy Kaiwan's crew together. Then we see who really running this. The tension crackled between them. Two queens in the making, both hungry, both willing to kill for the crown. Outside, Columbus stirred under the approaching dawn. Sirens still wailed in the distance from the night's violence. NBA's mini Draco echoes lingered in East Winton. B-Dog's body was already disappearing into a cleanup crew's van. The gods were mourning and regrouping. Loyalty tested, but the cipher still intact. Kaiwan and Brandy had no idea yet that the new threat wasn't just BMX muscle anymore. It was a willing ally with intimate knowledge of their moves. A red-haired flame who wanted Princess Savage to die screaming, and Keisha watching every angle, ready to eliminate anyone who got too close to her power. Heavy, Ruby, or the cartel itself if it came to that. The war had twisted again. Family was all they had, until even family started looking like competition. And in these streets, competition got buried slow and painful. Chapter 14. The call that broke the cipher. Kaiwan's burner vibrated on the nightstand at 2:47 a.m., ripping him out of a restless half-sleep. The safe house was quiet except for the low hum of the river outside and Brandy's steady breathing beside him. He grabbed the phone, eyes narrowing at the unknown number. The voice on the other end was frantic, breathless, laced with pure terror. K1, it's Ruby Red. Hothead. I just escaped from BMX. They had me locked in a spot off Victory. Heavy and Keisha. I'm hiding behind the old mill. Please, I need help. You the only one left, I trust. That's all Bruno would want from you. Iwan didn't even think. The grief over B-Dog was still raw, a fresh wound that hadn't scarred yet. Ruby Red had been right there with them through every lick, every late-night ride. If she was telling the truth, leaving her out there was the same as spitting on his brother's grave. He slid out of bed, already pulling on black joggers and a hoodie, scars pulling tight across his chest as he moved. Brandy stirred, eyes cracking open. "Where you going, baby?" Ruby Red called. She escaped. I gotta go get her. He leaned down, kissed her forehead quick. "Stay here. I'll be right back." He was out the door before she could fully wake up, jumping into his brand new Dodge TRX truck, the matte black beast he'd copped with the last re-up money, 700 horses under the hood, built for war and speed. The engine roared to life like a caged animal. All he thought about as he peeled out was Bruno. That's all my nigga would want from me. Help his woman. The TRX ate up the dark streets of Columbus, tires screaming as he pushed toward the old mill off Macon Road. His mind raced faster than the truck, images of B-Dog's body on the floor, the shot that took him, the war that had already cost too much. Ruby's voice had sounded real, desperate. He owed it to the Piru Code, to the loyalty beyond sets. Meanwhile, back in the Rapids condo, Keisha walked out of the kitchen wearing nothing but a short red silk robe that barely covered her thighs. The city lights painted her dark skin in soft glows, curves moving like liquid sin. Heavy blood sat on the couch, eyes locked on her, dick already hardening at the sight. Damn, she was so sexy, he thought, that football star hunger still burning even after everything they'd been through. He dropped to his knees right there in the living room, massive hands gripping her hips and lifting her like she weighed nothing. He spread her legs wide, burying his face between her thighs, tongue working magic on her sweet nectar. Keisha moaned loud, fingers gripping his braids as her wetness rolled down his broad chest, dripping onto the floor. She rode his face hard, hips grinding, chasing that storm they both craved. Heavy stood up eventually, carrying her to the bed like a prize. He laid her down, that large staff, thick, heavy, reaching damn near to his knees when soft, rising full and ready. He pounded her with everything he had, deep, relentless strokes that had her screaming his name, body arching, another powerful orgasm ripping through her as she clawed his back. Heavy exploded inside her moments later, grunting like a beast, both of them collapsing in a sweaty, satisfied heap. After the sex, while they lay tangled in the sheets, Heavy dropped the real talk. Ruby Red got a plan. She's gonna take the gods down from the inside out. Feed them fake info, set up Kaiwan, get close to that savage bitch Brandy. Then we finish them all. She already called him, said she escaped. He's on his way to the old mill right now. Keisha smiled slow, tracing a finger down his massive chest, power surging through her veins like the best drug she'd ever had. Heavy was the king she had always wanted and needed. Big, brutal, loyal to her pussy and her ambition. Together they ran the city now. BMX muscle mixed with Senojais money. The power ran through her pulse like electricity. She just needed Kaiwan gone. One final trap, and the South Side corridor would be theirs completely. "Make it clean, baby," she whispered, kissing his neck. "But make Brandy suffer slow. That bitch killed too many of ours." Heavy kissed her hard, then rolled out of bed, pulling on his clothes. His phone buzzed. Ruby Red confirming, Kaiwan on the way. Alone in the handle this one personally. Heavy grinned, gold fronts flashing. "I got it. This ends tonight." He jumped into his lifted Ford F-35 dually truck, the blacked-out monster with smoked lights and running boards that made it look like a tank on wheels. The big diesel engine roared as he hit the highway, pushing 90 miles per hour toward the old mill. Heavy was done playing defense. Kaiwan had cost him Lil B, Lil Boo, and too many soldiers. Tonight, he would handle it personally. Crush the truck, drag Kaiwan out, and put a bullet in his head while he begged. Brandy woke up fully minutes after Kaiwan left, the bed still warm where he'd been. She instantly knew something was wrong. Ruby Red's escape smelled like pure setup. Too convenient, too timed after B-Dog's death. Brandy's military instinct screamed trap. She threw on clothes, grabbed the blackout AR-15 from the closet, and ran for her Range Rover. Fuck. she muttered, tires screeching as she peeled out. Baby, don't do this. The two trucks raced toward the same spot from different directions. Kaiwan in the sleek, fast TRX, thinking he was saving his brother's woman. Heavy in the massive, dually coming to end the war with one personal kill. The old mill loomed ahead, abandoned and shadowed, the Chattahoochee whispering dark behind it. Ruby Red waited in the shadows near the entrance, red hair tucked under a hoodie, a fresh burner in her hand, smiling that dangerous hothead smile. She had played her part perfect, fed Kaiwan the bait, fed Heavy the location, and now both kings were heading straight into her web. Keisha, back at the condo, poured herself a glass of wine, robe still open, power thrumming through her body. The city was almost hers. All she needed was one more body on the ground. Kaiwan's TRX lights cut through the darkness as he approached the mill. He killed the engine, stepping out with his Glock ready, scanning for Ruby. Red? Where you at? A massive shadow moved in the distance, Heavy's dually rumbling up fast, headlights off until the last second. Brandy's Range Rover was still miles back, pushing hard, but the trap was already closing. The war had come down to one lonely stretch of road and two trucks full of bad decisions. And Ruby Red stood in the middle, ready to watch it all burn. Chapter 15. Bare Hands and Final Breath. Kaiwan's TRX sat idling in the shadows of the old mill, engine ticking as it cooled. He stepped out slow, Glock tucked at the small of his back out of habit, but his hands empty. The place felt wrong, too quiet, the river whispering behind the rusted walls like it already knew how this night would end. He pulled out the burner and hit redial. Ruby, I'm here. Where you at? All he heard on the other end was a slight, cold laugh. Then, the line went dead. That laugh hit him like ice water. Before he could process it, the massive frame of Heavy blood filled the doorway he had just come through. Gold fronts gleamed sinister in the moonlight, Glock 19 steady in his right hand. Heavy moved with surprising grace for 280 pounds, football muscle still carved from years on the field and years in the streets. Kaiwan's stomach dropped. He had been set up with the oldest trick known to man: love and loyalty. The kind that made you blind to the truth, B-Dog's memory. Ruby Red's desperate voice on the phone. It had all been bait. He just laughed out loud, the sound echoing off the concrete walls, raw and bitter. Heavy's eyes narrowed, anger flashing hot. You need to be scared, nigga. Your death is near. Fuck you, Kaiwan answered, voice steady even as his scars burned. You a bitch hiding behind a gun. Heavy's temperature hit the roof. He threw the Glock to the side with a metallic clatter. I'll kill you with my bare hands. He charged like a linebacker on a blitz, swinging wild haymakers that could crack concrete. But the sparring sessions with Tarhead had Kaiwan on point. Sharper, faster, scars forged into armor. He stepped back just enough, then stepped in quick, catching Heavy with vicious body blows. Left hook to the ribs, right uppercut to the liver. Each punch landed with the force of a man who had come back from the dead twice. Heavy couldn't believe it. This hospital boy hit with so much power. Pain exploded through his midsection, slowing him for a split second. But Heavy was still fast for his size. He grabbed Kaiwan around the waist, lifted him clean above his head like a bench press, and slammed him against the far wall. Kaiwan hit hard, breath exploding from his lungs. Heavy followed with a brutal kick to the side as Kaiwan slid to the ground. The fight turned epic. Two warriors in the gut of an abandoned mill, fists and feet flying under the faint moonlight filtering through broken windows. Ruby Red watched from the shadows near the entrance, eyes wide in awe. She had orchestrated this perfectly. The call, the location, the setup. Heavy was supposed to end it quick, but Kaiwan was giving the big man everything Tarhead had taught him. Body blows that made Heavy slow and labored, then crisp headshots that started knocking him off his feet. Ruby Red stepped forward from the shadows, smiling triumphant, ready to watch the final act. She never saw the shadow that came up behind her. Brandy had followed the 360 tracking app on Kaiwan's phone the entire way, Range Rover pushed to its limit. She moved like the elite soldier she was. Silent. Lethal. Shooting Ruby would have caused too much noise and given Heavy time to react. Instead, Brandy pulled the knife from her boot, stepped in close, and stuck it deep into the side of Ruby Red's neck. Ruby tried to react, eyes widening, hand flying up, but Brandy held her tight from behind, twisting the blade with cold precision. Ruby's legs kicked once, twice, then went still as her life ran out in a hot rush down Brandy's arm. Heavy staggered, blood trickling from a split lip, ribs screaming with every breath. He knew in that moment he couldn't beat Kaiwan straight up. As he fell back against a rusted beam, his hand found the discarded Glock. He snatched it up, blood running down his lips from broken ribs, and smiled that gold grin one last time. The shot cracked loud. The bullet caught Kaiwan square in the chest, slamming him back like a sledgehammer. Pain beyond pain. Fire exploding through the old scars, lungs fighting for air. Kaiwan hit the ground hard, vision tunneling. His whole life flashed in his eyes. The Count, on MLK, cap dropping, waking up in the hospital with his mother's prayers, Brandy's savage love, the gods rising. B-Dog's last breath. But what hit him hardest was his mother's voice, clear as the day he woke up tubed. Baby, God done gave you a second chance. Don't waste it in vain. Kaiwan knew then. He loved the streets, but the streets don't love nobody.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. You already know, no. Yeah. The streets don't love nobody. Ain't no room to cry about. No love, no love, no love, no love. Gave it my all I got was pain and cold walls now. Cold walls, yeah. They say you gotta fall just to fall. That's what it's all about. Fall out, yeah. But the streets don't stop for none of y'all, no. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. I done seen real turn fake when the lights look fake. Same ones you die for turn to cut though. Heart full of scars, I don't trust, so no trust. Tryna find love, but it come with a cut though. Mama said, son, keep your head right. But the hunger had me moving through them red lights. Tryna chase a dollar, lost my whole life. Now I'm looking in the mirror, I don't feel right. Honesty and love, what you looking for the money talk. They don't hear you no more. In God we trust, on the dollar we chase. But we losing our soul just to run that race. The street don't love nobody, ain't no room to cry about. No love. Gave him my all I got was pain and cold walls now. Cold walls, yeah. They say you gotta fall just to fall. That's what it's all about. Fall about, yeah. But the streets don't stop for none of y'all, no. Don't stop. I know. Late night sirens in the background. Another lost soul, they don't make a sound. Everybody tough till they break down. Seen the king turn red when the case round down. I was out here trying to be somebody. Now I'm feeling like I lost everybody. All the love fake, all the trust gone. No love, trying to right rights from a life wrong. Yeah, ain't no love in the city, just survival. Gotta watch who with you, they your rival. It's fall, but you can't let them see. No, cause the streets don't care if you bleed. No. The streets don't let nobody, ain't no room to cry about. Gave it my soul, now I'm stuck with this cold night. All night, they told me ball, but I fell when the lights out. And the streets don't stop, they just roll by, yeah. Don't let nobody, ain't no reason to cry about. Cry. Gave it my soul, now I'm stuck with these cold nights. They told me ball, but I fell when the lights out. And the streets don't stop, they just roll by, yeah.